Chapter 2243. So fast. It's too fast. I didn't even have time to react, and he had already rushed in. What kind of movement technique is this? Why have I never seen it before? So fast. He is worthy of being able to defeat Ao Shiba and Emojinda. He is really extraordinary. Among the people who entered this time, he can be regarded as one of the top ones. The people behind saw Yi Shiwen's speed and suddenly felt cold sweat dripping down their backs. Yi Shiwen's strength was too terrifying. With this speed alone, it was almost no difficulty for him to kill them. Yi Shiwen directly rushed into the Weapon Emperor Heaven and only felt a boundless coercion. This was the suppression of the Weapon Emperor Heaven against outsiders. It was like the human body would also instinctively reject foreign creatures. This was the operation of the heavenly way of the Weapon Emperor Heaven. However, Yi Shiwen was not afraid at all. He directly began to operate the Celestial Emperor Tool refining technique. All the aura on his body was suddenly changed, and then all the aura on his body was changed. Then, he turned into a native creature of the Weapon Emperor Heaven. He would not be suppressed by the Weapon Emperor Heaven at all. He could even use the laws of the Weapon Emperor Heaven to practice. It was like a dragon returning to the sea. In an instant, he got rid of the result of the suppression. At the same time, the aura on his body seemed to be completely cleansed, and there was a feeling of transformation. This was unprecedented. One must know that his gilded tyrant form was already very perfect, but in the Weapon Emperor Heaven, there was a feeling of remodeling. The aura on his body was also constantly surging. The blood essence belonging to the two gods that was originally suppressed in his body was now almost unable to be suppressed and was about to rush out. He knew that he was about to cultivate to the 9th level of Paong realm. At that time, he would be the real peak of the demigod realm, and only half a step away from being a great figure. At that time, there would be a real transformation of his strength, and he would go one step further and reach an unimaginable level. And at this moment, many divine senses swept over directly. Many of them were the old monsters that Yi Shiwen had observed before. They wanted to lock onto him. Yi Shiwen is over there. We have to join forces to kill him first. We can't let him escape. We have no chance of advancing further. But he is only at the 8th level of Paong realm, and it is already so difficult to deal with him. If we let him practice to the 9th level of Paong realm, what will happen then? That's right, he must die. Although he has the support of the deification abyss behind him, it's useless. In the Weapon Emperor Heaven, life and death are up to fate. No one knows what exactly happened inside. Kill him first. Yi Shiwen could sense that many tyrannical auras were rushing towards him. It was obvious that he had become the target of public criticism due to his previous battle with Emojinda and Ao Shiba. Everyone wanted to eliminate him from the very beginning. With so many experts coming at him together, Yi Shiwen could only defeat one or two of them, but it was impossible to kill all of them. Moreover, in the face of these powerful auras, the level of Ao Shiba and Emojinda was nothing. Although their combat power was strong, their skills were still shallow and could not keep up with the speed of Yi Shiwen's cultivation. But among these old monsters, there were many who had cultivated for 70,000 to 80,000 years, or even longer. Even if they did nothing, 70,000 to 80,000 years was enough to improve their cultivation to an unimaginable level. Yi Shiwen was confident that he would not fail, but it was also impossible for him to win. He raised the corner of his mouth and snorted coldly. When I cultivate to the 9th level of Paong realm, you will all be waiting to die. He did not stay and fight, but directly disappeared and rushed into the depths of the Weapon Emperor Heaven. After a while, there were many people standing where he was just standing. Although they did not show themselves, they knew each other's existence. It was impossible for them to show themselves at this time, so they were also on guard against each other. Damn, he actually ran away. Yi Shiwen, I will make you pay the price. Ao Shiba's figure emerged. The conflict between him and Yi Shiwen had already surfaced, so he was not afraid of anything. Beside him, there were 3 old dragons with deep and terrifying auras. It was unknown when these old dragons started cultivating, but their strength was tyrannical. They were even more powerful than Ao Shiba, but they were also very old. Each of them had white hair, but their turbid eyes would burst out bursts of light from time to time. And behind these old dragons, there were also some experts with strong and weak auras. The strong ones were even comparable to Tao confirmation, while the weak ones were demigod peak. These were either the vassals of the Dragon Island or the experts of the forces that were on good terms with the Dragon Island. As the Dragon Clan used to dominate the world, the potential power was unimaginable. There were more or less hundreds of people. This was also the source of Ao Shiba's confidence. No matter how strong Yi Shiwen was, could he fight against an entire group? In his opinion, Yi Shiwen's biggest mistake was to separate from the team of Transforming God Abyss. The Transforming God Abyss was not only attended by the monkey and the others. Some hidden old monsters also wanted to try their luck. At this time, they had also gathered together. But Yi Shiwen was not with them. Being alone was equivalent to courting death. Not to mention Yi Shiwen, Ao Shiba himself was also the target of many people in the dark. It wasn't only because of the competition between the Tool Emperor Heaven. There were many hostile forces either in the open or in the dark. Some of them personally went into battle, and some even hired people to kill the geniuses and heroes of their opponents. However, the Dragon Island was powerful. With so many experts, how many people had the guts to attack them? That was equivalent to courting death. If we let him break through to the 9th level of Powong Realm, then it will be really troublesome, an old dragon said faintly. When that time comes, I'm afraid we will not be his match. This time, I must let him die without a burial place. This time, I will absorb all the power in the Dragon Ball in one breath. I want to prove my Tao in the Weapon Emperor Heaven. By then, even if he enters the 9th level of Powong Realm, so what? I can pinch him to death with a flip of my hand. Ao Shiba's eyes were red. He had already been completely infuriated by Yi Shiwen. There was no possibility of reconciliation between the two sides. He had been forced into a dead end by Yi Shiwen. There was no other possibility. Now that you have swallowed the Dragon Ball, it will be impossible for you to go further in the future. The Dragon Ball is an existence that our Dragon Clan is born to continuously accumulate. It is even more precious than a life instrument. You are destroying your own future. An old dragon could not help but advise. Do you really want to do this? If you want to deal with him, there is no need at all. If our Dragon Island really wants to deal with him, even if he has the support of Transforming God Abyss, it is not impossible to find an opportunity. It is such a pity. I must kill him. I have never suffered such a great humiliation. Even Qin Lai did not give me such a great humiliation. If I can't kill him, I will not be able to cultivate properly in the future. Moreover, it is not that there is no other way without the Dragon Ball. Ao Shiba said with a gloomy face. Before I came, the old ancestor once said that our Dragon Island had buried a backup in the Weapon Emperor Heaven. There was once a demon beast in the Weapon Emperor Heaven that was subdued by our Dragon Clan. He should have proven his Tao now. It is time to activate this backup. Let's go. Let's go find him and let him get rid of Yi Shiwen. And Ao Shiba and the others instantly disappeared into the void. After failing to find Yi Shiwen, these gathered experts also dispersed one after another. At this time, although Yi Shiwen did not know Ao Shiba's plan, he did not care. As long as he went further, all these were fleeting clouds. He directly plunged into the depths of the Weapon Emperor Heaven. In the depths of the Weapon Emperor Heaven, there were also many treasure demons that were born from treasure aura. The bodies of these treasure demons were the best materials for refining tools. He directly took out the Devil Beckoning Banner. He wanted to use the right time and place in the Weapon Emperor Heaven to truly refine the Devil Beckoning Banner into a divine tool. He wanted to transform it into a divine tool again and put his own imprint on it. There was also Tianyuan Mirror. This was Yi Shiwen's current plan, because these two were originally divine tools. However, due to various reasons, they had become defective divine tools. Moreover, Tianyuan Mirror's damage was even more serious. When it first met Yi Shiwen, it did not even have a 10,000th of its power. In the sky, waves of treasure aura blew over. It was like a bone-scraping steel knife, directly scraping Yi Shiwen's body. It was enough to blow an ordinary mysterious realm expert to death. And Yi Shiwen, who was constantly operating the Celestial Emperor tool refining technique, was like a fish in water in such an environment. He could collect these treasure auras and then use them. As if it had sensed Yi Shiwen's existence, an incomparably powerful treasure demon appeared. This treasure demon had transformed into the appearance of a fierce tiger. A dull roar came from afar. The sound was dull, and it was accompanied by bursts of killing sounds. It was extremely terrifying. This terrifying aura even faintly affected Yi Shiwen. He had encountered such a powerful treasure demon as soon as he entered the Weapon Emperor Heaven. This made Yi Shiwen faintly excited. He wanted to restore the Devil Beckoning Banner and Tianyuan Mirror to the level of a divine tool. However, he needed innumerable treasure auras and refining materials. The Devil Beckoning Banner was only damaged. However, Tianyuan Mirror had completely declined. Yi Shiwen looked over and saw a huge tiger. Its whole body was emitting a terrifying aura. It was walking step by step towards him. It seemed as if it could devour the world. What the hell is this treasure demon made of? It has such power. As the saying goes, the clouds follow the dragons and the wind follows the tigers. This fierce tiger's body was also emitting a strong wind-attributed aura. This was a tyrannical treasure demon. An ordinary demigod peak expert would be swallowed by it. Roar! This ferocious tiger let out a powerful roar, and the entire world trembled. Countless afterimages appeared in the void. This ferocious tiger turned into a gust of wind and pounced towards Yi Shiwen. Its speed was so fast that it left afterimages behind. Chapter 2244. However, no matter how fast it was no match for Yi Shiwen's speed. Yi Shiwen reacted almost instantaneously. He directly pinched the overturning sky seal in his hand and confronted the tiger. Bang! Yi Shiwen directly blocked the tiger's attack. Both sides burst into sparks, and the sparks turned into divine rays that burst out directly, sweeping into a storm of divine rays. Both sides were like two divine weapons clashing against each other. Yi Shiwen faintly felt a sharp pain in his hand. He was a little surprised. With his current tired body, there was actually someone who could make him feel pain. Although it had not broken through his defense, it was already extremely amazing. However, although he was surprised, the speed of his hand did not slow down at all. The space-breaking sword appeared in his other hand, and a huge sword river slashed down. Schwa! In the next instant, the ferocious tiger had already appeared in an extremely distant place, dodging the attack. Its speed was very fast, even faster than anyone Yi Shiwen had seen before. Although it could not hurt him, it was not a solution to let it keep running away. Demon Summoning Banner. Yi Shiwen directly waved his hands, and the Demon Summoning Banner covered the sky and the earth, sealing the space, and smashed down towards the tiger, not giving it any room to resist, and directly besieged it. The tiger roared, and the endless wind attribute energy around it directly swept out. It had extremely sharp characteristics and directly broke the control of the Demon Summoning Banner. Yi Shiwen was a little stunned. Even the Demon Summoning Banner could not control this tiger. What was the origin of this tiger? However, it did not matter to him. Taking advantage of this time, while the tiger was distracted by the Demon Summoning Banner, he stepped out and directly rushed to the front of the tiger. His hands turned over and turned into the overturning sky seal, smashing down. Boom! A huge mushroom cloud slowly rose up. A terrifying power was generated, and then it wreaked havoc on the tiger's body. Roar! Like a cannonball, Fierce Tiger was directly smashed to the ground. A terrifying force directly scraped off a layer of the surrounding disciples. It should be said that a layer of disciples was evaporated. It was very terrifying. This was Yi Shiwen's current hand speed. The tiger constantly screamed, seriously injured. Yi Shiwen's overturning sky seal was not easy to deal with. Roar! 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 This ferocious tiger roared unceasingly. It had never expected that Yi Shiwen would be so powerful. Moreover, Yi Shiwen's strength was even more terrifying. He could even injure his body. Yi Shiwen's next attack followed like a shadow. Another overturning sky seal smashed down. Bang! He just wanted to get up and continue to fight, but he was slapped down by Yi Shiwen. The entire overturning the sky seal directly smashed half of his head. If it was an ordinary god, he would have died, but he was not an ordinary creature after all. His head was healing rapidly, but his entire body looked a little more transparent and dimmer. It was obvious that he had been heavily injured. Bang! 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 This ferocious tiger continued to roar, trying to break free from Yi Shiwen's hand, but it was useless. In front of Yi Shiwen, he was still too weak. He was not an opponent at all. He was constantly being smashed down. Yi Shiwen was like a tiger hero at this time, riding on this ferocious tiger's body. He constantly punched, and the power of each punch that could penetrate the stars completely fell on the body of this ferocious tiger. Roar, damn human! How can I die? This ferocious tiger roared, and his whole body was shrinking, and then turned into a paperweight. A tiger-shaped paperweight directly pressed down on Yi Shiwen. Suddenly, he only felt that the whole world was under the suppression of this paperweight. The word paperweight had been learned to an unimaginable degree. The ferocious tiger that turned into a paperweight was still grinning, as if it could see Yi Shiwen being crushed to death. This was the first time that Yi Shiwen had a clear look at this thing. It turned out to be a divine tool-level paperweight. However, it was also incomplete. It was unknown how many years had passed, but it had taken the form of a tiger-shaped tool spirit. You only have this kind of power? If you want to fight against me, you are still far from it. Yi Shiwen suddenly burst out, and the blood in his body surged up. The cutting space sword in his hand chopped down. Bang! This paperweight artifact was directly chopped into pieces by Yi Shiwen's cutting space sword. Although both were divine-level artifacts, the cutting space sword was much more powerful than the paperweight artifact. Not to mention, it was an incomplete divine tool. Yi Shiwen did not hesitate, and directly let Tianyuan Mirror swallow the fragment of this paperweight artifact. The effect was outstanding and immediate. Tianyuan Mirror almost immediately burst out a strong, multicolored light, and in one breath, it directly returned to the level of a pseudo-divine level artifact. It itself was a divine level artifact, so the principles and realm were not a problem for it. The only thing it lacked was enough energy. This paperweight artifact had evolved into a spirit for many years, and its power had been completely absorbed by Tianyuan Mirror. Yi Shiwen was overjoyed. Sure enough, as he expected, Tianyuan Mirror was now his life-bonded divine tool. The more powerful Tianyuan Mirror was, the more powerful his strength would be. When the time came, he would not have to worry even if he encountered a powerhouse in the Tao confirming stage. After this precedent, he immediately no longer hesitated and directly went towards the depths of the Tool Emperor Heaven. The Tool Emperor Heaven was really too big, unimaginably big. It was densely covered with stars, and no one knew how many treasured demons there were. If outsiders knew that Yi Shiwen had actually fed a defective divine tool to his own life-bonded divine tool, it was estimated that they would spit out a mouthful of blood. Many of these people who came in were still using pseudo-divine level artifacts. They had not even seen what a defective divine tool looked like, but Yi Shiwen had fed all of them to Tianyuan Mirror. For him, he had done a lot of squandering things. As long as Tianyuan Mirror could become a divine tool again, everything would be worth it. He continued to kill in the depths of the Tool Emperor Heaven. It had to be said that the Tool Emperor Heaven was a divine nation established by the Tool Emperor. It was an unimaginable existence. In the next year, he killed those treasured demons everywhere in the depths of the Tool Emperor Heaven. Most of the treasured demons were demigods, and some were even weaker than demigods. Among them, there was no lack of treasured demons comparable to Tao confirming level. These treasured demons could also erupt with strength comparable to Tao confirming level by relying on the advantage of being a divine tool. However, the opponents they encountered were Yi Shiwen, and they were simply not his opponents. One by one, they were beheaded and refined by him. As he beheaded more and more treasured demons, Tianyuan Mirror recovered more and more power. He could feel that his body was faintly becoming more powerful. Since he had turned Tianyuan Mirror into a life-bonded divine tool, he could feel that Tianyuan Mirror was closely related to his own strength, but he had not been able to find an opportunity before. Moreover, Tianyuan Mirror's appetite was also astonishing. In more than a year, Yi Shiwen had beheaded hundreds of treasured demons of the pseudo-divine tool level. Moreover, he had killed more than 10 treasured demons that were comparable to Dao, confirming level divine tools. Not to mention, there were countless divine tools below the demigod level. Even so, Tianyuan Mirror was only getting stronger. It seemed that it was far from reaching its peak. It was still at the level of a pseudo-divine tool. It was still one step away from becoming a real divine tool. It was this one step away that made him helpless. If so many resources were used on the Devil's Summoning Banner, it would have already become a divine tool. However, there were naturally benefits in investing too much. He could feel that once Tianyuan Mirror was completely refined, its power would be far superior to the Devil's Summoning Banner. In fact, it would be far superior to any of the divine tools on his body. This was also the reason why he was willing to invest so much in it. In more than a year, it was impossible for him to not make any progress. He was also constantly refining the blood essence of the two gods in preparation for entering the 9th level of Paoang Realm. Basically, he had been making preparations in advance. After more than a year of preparation, he was finally ready to break through to the 9th level of the Paoang Realm. This was very difficult for other outsiders. They didn't belong to this world. Naturally, they were like bright lights in the dark night. Even if they didn't do anything, many treasured demons would come knocking on their door. However, Yi Shiwen was different. As long as he didn't want to, no treasured demon would be able to detect his aura. Whenever he operated the Celestial Emperor Tool refining technique, his aura would be like a fish in the water. He directly found a cave, arranged a formation array, and began his closed-door training. He sat cross-legged on the ground. Countless blood essence and energy rushed out of his body. This was the power of the two gods. Yi Shiwen had been absorbing the power of the blood essence of the two gods for more than a year. However, he didn't have enough time. Therefore, he hadn't been able to properly refine the power of the blood essence. Now he finally had the time. Anyway, there was still a long time before the closure of the tool Emperor Heaven. The blood in his body was constantly surging. A powerful force was impacting his limbs and bones. His understanding of the realm was also constantly improving. He constantly burned the bloodstone and poured it into the mysterious space in his body. This increased his understanding of the realm, so that he truly had the strength foundation to attack the 9th level of Paoang Realm. A day in the mountain was equivalent to 1,000 years in the world. This was the best portrayal of a cultivator. Yi Shiwen just wanted to do a little closed-door training to attack the 9th level of Paoang Realm. It took him a full 5 years. In the blink of an eye, it had been a full 6 years since he entered the tool Emperor Heaven. The time of the opening of the tool Emperor Heaven was more than half. Many people had already found a lot of treasures in the tool Emperor Heaven. Some people even said that they had found a divine tool and subdued it. This caused a sensation in the world. Chapter 22:45. God artifacts were unimaginably attractive to peak demigods. If a god artifact could produce an artifact spirit, it would naturally be able to break through to the doctrine realm after a long period of time. If one could have an artifact, it would naturally be said that their strength would increase greatly. However, it was not easy to subdue an artifact. Even if there was an incomplete artifact, it was still very difficult to subdue it. Therefore, although there were people who had subdued incomplete artifacts, there were not many real artifacts. Relatively speaking, they were just rare. Yi Shiwen was in closed-door training, but he still had a wisp of divine sense incarnation outside. Therefore, these news couldn't be hidden from him and fell into his ears. This divine incarnation was also walking in the equipment Emperor Heaven, exploring the dangerous forbidden areas while inquiring about the whereabouts of Ao, Shiba, Mo Jingda, and the others. When he came out, he would solve these two troubles in one fell swoop. However, whether it was Ao, Shiba, or Mo Jingda, they seemed to have disappeared. Yi Shiwen did not know where they went. It was too difficult to find them with only a divine incarnation. However, he was not in a hurry. He was now constantly breaking through to the 9th level of Pawang realm. As long as he could succeed, no matter what the other party's tricks were, it would be useless. In the face of absolute strength, tricks were too childish. He had reached the most critical juncture and was making the final sprint to break through to the 9th level of Pawang realm. With his cultivation, breaking through to the 9th level of Pawang realm was only a matter of minutes. It would not take 9 years at all. However, not only did he want to break through to the 9th level of Pawang realm, but he also wanted to make his combat power comparable to the middle stage of the immortal level. This was not something that could be achieved by ordinary means. In the vast and boundless weapon Sovereign Heaven, a snow-white figure was harvesting like a hot knife through butter. One treasure demon after another was completely destroyed by him and absorbed by him on the spot. This young man was expressionless. If Yi Shiwen was here, he would be immediately shocked. It was actually also the Celestial Emperor weapon refining technique. After a long time, the young man spoke. After the Equipment Emperor Heaven closed, we, as the true descendants of the Equipment Emperor, could not enter. Every time, we have to take advantage of this once in 100,000 years opportunity to come in and harvest. It's the same for those people. This young man was actually the true successor of the Weapon Emperor. However, now that the Weapon Emperor Heaven was closed, no one could enter. Even if they were the true successors of the Weapon Emperor, it was the same. However, this time, I will put an end to this situation. I want to obtain the true inheritance of the Weapon Emperor. At that time, the entire Weapon Emperor Heaven will be under my control. Those fellows who came to take advantage of me can forget about leaving. The master of the Weapon Emperor Heaven can only be me, Zhuahong. Do they think that I don't know that these fellows also came for the inheritance of the Weapon Emperor? However, how can they compare to me, the true successor of the Weapon Emperor? The young man's expression was extremely cold. Ao Shiba, Qin Lai, Yi Wudi, Yi Shiwen, Emo Jingda, Yang Wanxiu. The young man spat out these names one by one. All of them were top-notch geniuses of the younger generation. Although he was speaking, the movements of his hands weren't slow in the slightest. He grabbed a large number of treasured demons and killed them. He wasn't like Yi Shiwen, who used the treasured chi of the tool Emperor Heaven to refine his divine tool. Instead, he used it to temper himself. Many treasured demons screamed as they were refined by the Celestial Emperor tool, refining art. Their skills were digested, and their bodies were directly taken away by Zhuahong. Many treasured demons screamed as they were refined by the Celestial Emperor tool, refining art. Their skills were digested, and their bodies were taken away by Zhuahong. It was hard to imagine the good things inside the treasure chi. This treasure chi adhered to the stones and formed gems. These gems were the best materials for tool refining. As long as a little bit was added, the success rate of tool refining would be greatly increased. In the aspect of tool refining, no one could be compared with the Weapon Emperor since ancient times. He was the only supreme existence who had achieved success through tool refining. At this time, Yi Shiwen had also reached the most critical moment. He could absorb a large amount of treasure energy with every breath he took. And every breath he took was like a tidal wave. All of the treasure energy was transformed and absorbed into his body. This treasure energy wasn't just simple energy. It also contained countless traces of truth hidden within it. If people were to cultivate here for a long time, they would be able to absorb the treasure chi. Not only would their cultivation speed increase, but they would also be affected by the principles contained in the treasure chi. It could be said that this was a method to directly connect with the gods. No wonder there were countless experts in the Weapon Emperor Heaven. The environment here was even comparable to the transforming God Abyss. However, this place contained the great Tao of tool refining. However, the transforming God Abyss was a place where countless gods had joined hands to manifest the great Tao. Then, they would grab the great Tao and forcibly comprehend it. However, the tool Emperor Heaven was everywhere. It had a vast territory. It was countless times larger than the transforming God Abyss. Yi Shiwen had never seen such a huge world. Even the divine nations transformed by the gods, like the Death Lord's Abyss of Death, were nothing compared to the tool Emperor Heaven. They were simply not on the same level. Therefore, the weapon Emperor Heaven was the weapon Emperor Heaven, not the weapon Emperor's world. The heavens and the myriad heavens and realms referred to this incomparably huge world. It was impossible for ordinary people to open up such a huge world. Even the supreme experts among the gods could not open up such a huge world into their own divine kingdom because they did not have enough divine power. The great Tao here was subtly influencing these treasure demons, making them form their own cultivation system. It was very amazing. This was when the Weapon Emperor was not here. If the Weapon Emperor was here, how grand would it be? Yi Shiwen seemed to have seen the tip of the iceberg of the power of the Emperor-level powerhouses. And Yi Shiwen was now also enjoying the benefits. With the Celestial Emperor tool refining technique, he could not only conceal his aura, but also use the treasure chi to cultivate. He did not have to worry about being rejected by the Weapon Emperor's heavenly Tao. Yi Shiwen did not put much effort into cultivating the Celestial Emperor tool refining technique before. It was more of an auxiliary cultivation technique for tool refining. Now that he had really started to cultivate, coupled with the fact that his realm was many times more tyrannical than when he had just obtained it, he realized how wrong he was in the beginning. This in itself was a kind of unimaginably supreme cultivation technique. Among the god-level martial arts that he had obtained, most of them were magical power moves. On the contrary, real cultivation techniques were very rare. They contained countless truths of the great Tao. The more he cultivated, the more he could feel the unimaginably profound existence in them. Yi Shiwen even had an impulse to abandon his cultivation and recultivate. It almost affected his Tao heart. However, he still calmed down and did not abandon his cultivation and recultivate. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. But even so, he could almost feel that his observing person scripture had greatly improved while cultivating the Celestial Emperor tool refining technique and confirming his own great Tao. His body had already formed a huge universe. Countless stars were twinkling around him. At this time, his whole body was entrenched in the center of the universe. He was the only true God in the universe. Waves of treasure chi were refined by him. Within a radius of thousands of miles, one could feel the tide of treasure chi surging. Many treasure demons were trembling and lying on the ground. They could not sense Yi Shiwen's aura. However, just his breath could stir the tide of treasure chi for thousands of miles. One could imagine what kind of terrifying existence was in the middle of it. After a long time, his whole body suddenly opened all of a sudden. Almost in an instant, a tyrannical power rushed out of his body. His chi and blood surged like the sea, washing everything. There was a thunderous sound and a rumbling sound. He looked up to the sky and let out a long roar. He had finally reached the 9th level of Powong realm. Ah! Yi Shiwen was extremely carefree. He had finally cultivated to the peak of demigod. This was the last realm of demigod. Although his combat power was already comparable to that of Tao validation, his realm was too low. Most of the time, he was at a disadvantage. More importantly, because of this, his combat power directly rushed to the middle of the immortality realm, and he was not weak at all. His cultivation still needed some time to reach the peak of the 9th level of Powong realm. However, it was just a matter of time. He had already made up his mind that when he went out, he must retreat in the deity transformation abyss and directly rush to Tao validation to become a god. It was not comparable to Tao validation. Comparable to Tao validation was not Tao validation. His whole body was undergoing a kind of transformation. There was a continuous crackling sound. Yi Shiwen felt that his whole body was constantly squirming and his chi and blood were surging. After a long time, he finally stopped and completely stabilized the 9th level of Powong realm. He directly grabbed with his big hand. The void was torn by his grasp. Many of the treasure demons hiding in the void were caught in his hand. Umph! Weren't you just peeping at me and coveting my chi and blood? Yi Shiwen could not help but sneer. He had already discovered the existence of these treasure demons. It was just that he was at the most critical moment of breaking through, so he was too lazy to care about them. These treasure demons were also sensible and did not disturb him at the most critical moment of breaking through, which allowed them to live for a while longer. How is it possible? How can he be so strong? Impossible. Didn't he just cultivate to the peak of demigod? He is just a very weak human. How can he be so terrifying? I don't believe it. I want to break free. These treasure demons roared in horror. They were almost caught by Yi Shiwen in an instant and did not have the strength to fight back. There were even some treasure demons who were comparable to Dao validation level. They were very tyrannical. Even in the Tool Emperor heaven, they were small nobles. As long as they did not provoke the existence that was difficult to provoke, they would not die. Who would have thought that they would be caught by Yi Shiwen in an instant? Bang! They screamed as they were grabbed to death by Yi Shiwen. The heavenly source mirror had absorbed their inexhaustible treasured energies along with their bodies. Rumble! Countless tribulation clouds had gathered in the sky at some point in time. Chapter 2246. These tribulation clouds carried an unprecedented tyrannical coercion which directly pressed down on Yi Shiwen's heart. This was a divine tribulation. Gods were a kind of realm. It was also a transformation of the essence of life. Whether it was a person or an object, if they wanted to advance to this level, they would have to withstand such a terrifying divine tribulation. Just like a living creature, there were not many divine tools that could be promoted to divine tools. Therefore, divine tools were very rare. Even if there were some divine tools, they would be in the hands of gods. Experts below the level of gods who possessed divine tools were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Tianyuan mirror suddenly flew out of Yi Shiwen's body. The simple and unadorned surface of the mirror erupted with bursts of blood-red light, which illuminated everything in the world. The surrounding space of thousands of miles was illuminated into a sea of blood. In the distance, countless treasure demons were rolling and crawling away. They didn't dare to approach. What a joke! If they were implicated by the divine tribulation, then they would be finished. Therefore, Yi Shiwen was the only one standing in this god's retribution within thousands of miles. This god's retribution faintly gave him a very strong sense of danger. If there was a god here, perhaps his eyeballs would have popped out. He would have been scared out of his wits. This kind of divine tribulation was far from being comparable to an ordinary divine tribulation. Tianyuan mirror itself was very special. It had once reached an unimaginable realm. Although Yimo was not here now, but it was not an ordinary divine tribulation. Voila! A terrifying thunder and lightning directly struck down. Yi Shiwen's eyes were sharp. He could see at a glance that this was not a thunder and lightning. It was clearly a group of thunder and lightning principles that had struck down in the form of thunder and lightning. Yi Shiwen's heart couldn't help but tremble. This divine tribulation was too terrifying. It used all the principles to directly attack the essence. This was the most terrifying method. Now that Yimo was not here, Yi Shiwen could only take care of this divine tribulation. Under his control, Tianyuan mirror erupted with countless blood-red lights. Lines of law lines emerged on its surface. They formed a blood-red torrent and rushed towards that group of thunder and lightning principles. Boom! A huge explosion sound was heard. A terrifying aura swept out. The surging energy shock wave swept out like the waves of the sea. However, what was truly frightening wasn't this. What was truly frightening was the fact that hundreds of such terrifying lightning nomological laws had appeared in the sky. However, Tianyuan mirror's method of crossing the tribulation was also very fierce. Almost in an instant, it turned into a peerless great devil. It opened its bloody mouth on the spot and swallowed the hundreds of terrifying lightning laws. If others were to see this, they would be scared to death. This lightning rule was enough to kill a demigod. How terrifying would it be when hundreds of lightning rules were stacked together? Yet it was devoured by him in one gulp. Of course, ordinary divine tribulations would not be this terrifying. Yi Shiwen was extraordinary, and Tianyuan mirror was the magic tool of the Devil King in those days. As for the heavenly tribulation up in the sky, it seemed as though it had been enraged as it came down even more frenziedly. Over 1,000 lightning laws smashed down, turning into a series of terrifying figures. There were godly beasts as well as ridiculously powerful figures. All of them attacked Gulai. At this moment, the ground had already started to gush with countless amounts of yellowish water. Underworld water. Yi Shiwen recognized it immediately. The underworld water was gushing out from the ground, and it was spreading at an alarming speed. It seemed as if it would drown Yi Shiwen and Tianyuan Mirror. Soon, it had rushed to Yi Shiwen's feet. He immediately felt a kind of pain. The place that was submerged by the underworld water was making a sizzling sound. He was shocked. The water of the yellow spring could even hurt his physical body. If an ordinary peak demigod, even if it was comparable to a Tao-confirming expert, touched by the water of the yellow spring, he would probably be melted into a puddle of blood in a short period of time. However, Yi Shiwen couldn't care so much at this time. He directly radiated divinity to protect himself and wrapped himself in the demon summoning banner. Then, he suddenly flew into the air and began to help Tianyuan Mirror in the battle. These thousands of powerful lightning laws had yet to finish bombarding. More lightning laws smashed down, and Yi Shiwen could only try his best to help Tianyuan Mirror. Human Tao Fist. He blasted out a punch and directly smashed a lightning law. However, he could almost feel that his arm was faintly numb. He couldn't imagine how terrifying it was. These lightning laws rushed into Tianyuan Mirror. At this time, Tianyuan Mirror was also getting stronger as it fought. It didn't care about anything at all. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed mouthful by mouthful. The lightning laws that smashed on its body were useless. They couldn't shake it at all. Yi Shiwen wasn't worried. Tianyuan Mirror was not the strongest among his many instruments, but it was the strongest. So far, he hadn't encountered an existence that could hurt Tianyuan Mirror. This also made him even more in awe. Such a terrifying Tianyuan Mirror. What kind of damage did it encounter in the past that caused it to fall to such a realm? This was unimaginable. Tianyuan Mirror swallowed the lightning laws in big mouthfuls. From time to time, it would transform into a demon hand and grab the lightning laws in the sky. It seemed that it was not fast enough. Yi Shiwen couldn't keep up with such a fierce way of crossing the tribulation. After all, his body was still inferior to Tianyuan Mirror. More importantly, Yi Shiwen could faintly feel that a looming willpower was faintly emerging from Tianyuan Mirror. He immediately reacted and realized that Tianyuan Mirror had once again given birth to a new tool spirit. With Yi Mo's departure, although he didn't completely cut off the connection with Tianyuan Mirror, he had indeed been reborn with another identity. It was impossible to come back to Tianyuan Mirror as a tool spirit. At this time, it was also a matter of course for a new tool spirit to be born. This was a tool spirit born under his cultivation. Naturally, it would be completely loyal to him. He didn't have to worry about erasing the tool spirit like the emergence immortal exterminating saber in the past. This was a completely different thing. He was overjoyed. If there was a tool spirit, Tianyuan Mirror could exert far more power than it was now. His divine sense could directly feel the weak and still semi-ignorant tool spirit of Tianyuan Mirror. The two sides were automatically connected as if there was a blood connection. After the birth of this tool spirit, Tianyuan Mirror became even more ferocious. Not only the heavenly tribulation couldn't do anything to it, but it also directly absorbed the yellow spring water into Tianyuan Mirror, forming a surging yellow spring river inside Tianyuan Mirror. This level of yellow spring water could even melt the gods. Yi Shiwen didn't dare to stay in it. One could imagine how terrifying it was. Now that Tianyuan Mirror had absorbed all of it in one breath, it could be used to deal with opponents. Even if it was a god, it could be directly killed. Yi Shiwen was incomparably happy to have another trump card. Moreover, some of the lightning laws absorbed by him were used by Tianyuan Mirror to temper itself. Some were actually stored by him and transformed into a talisman. When he directly threw it out, it would be a god's retribution level of thunder and lightning. One of it could make a god suffer a lot. Its power was infinite. Even he was amazed. Tianyuan mirror was really getting more and more ferocious. Even heaven's retribution couldn't do anything to it. It even gave it a new attack method. In the sky, the thunder tribulation was getting less and less. Yi Shiwen knew that the thunder tribulation of Tianyuan mirror had finally passed. Sure enough, not long after, a monstrous aura instantly swept out from Tianyuan mirror and a mighty divine power swept out. This was the symbol of the complete transformation of the mirror into a divine tool. Divine power, like the coercion of a god, swept out in all directions. In the distance, countless treasure monsters knelt in worship. They were different from the people outside. They themselves were transformed from divine tools. Therefore, for them, Tianyuan mirror was the real proof of Tao. In Tool Emperor Heaven, there was one more supreme existence that had confirmed Tao. His figure was vast and mighty. Shock waves burst out from his body, forming many talismans that spread out. Yi Shiwen waved his hand, and Tianyuan mirror flew into his hand. There was a faint feeling of intimacy. He knew that this was the effect of the tool spirit formed in Tianyuan mirror. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to be so intimate. He had already stepped into the peak of demigod. With Tianyuan mirror, there was nothing to be afraid of in the middle stage of the immortality realm. When he accumulated enough power, it would be enough to sweep away the entire middle stage of the immortality realm. Tianyuan mirror had always felt like a chicken rib in his hands. It was not that Tianyuan mirror was not powerful enough, but rather it was damaged too seriously, and to repair it would consume many times more resources than other instruments of the same level. Even a big prodigal like Yi Shiwen would feel a toothache when it came to repairing it. On the contrary, it did not have much effect in a frontal battle. Now, Tianyuan mirror had broken into the divine tool level with the help of the special environment in Tool Emperor Heaven. Its power had greatly increased. It was not inferior to anyone. Its power had greatly increased, and it had become one of Yi Shiwen's trump cards. Compared to a few years ago, the current Yi Shiwen could be said to have greatly increased his strength. The next step was to let the demon summoning flag become a divine tool. By then, he would have 3 complete divine tools in his hands. For a demigod, such wealth was very shocking. Ordinary gods would only have one because the price of godhood to become a divine tool was too high. It would be better to strengthen the life magic tool with these resources. If it was not in Tool Emperor Heaven, Yi Shiwen would not be so extravagant. Yi Shiwen immediately flew into the depths of Tool Emperor Heaven without hesitation. He did not hide his aura. He constantly looked for those tyrannical treasure demons, killed them, and plundered their bodies, refining them into the demon summoning flag. This process went on for a year. Demon summoning flag also ushered in its own God's test. Although it was also very big, it was nothing compared to the God's test that Tianyuan mirror had to face. With Yi Shiwen's help, it successfully upgraded into a divine tool. In this year, Yi Shiwen did not hide his aura, and it had completely stirred up many people. Chapter 2247. Yi Shiwen's whereabouts was a target that many people wanted to find. Whether it was to kill this genius or to seize all his wealth, it could be said that he must be killed. In particular, Yi Shiwen was alone and did not act with the deity transformation abyss team. This was his biggest mistake. However, the Tool Emperor Heaven was vast and boundless. It was much bigger than any other world. So, it was very difficult to find a person who had the intention to hide. Moreover, Yi Shiwen had used the Celestial Emperor tool refining art to conceal his figure. So, no one could find his whereabouts. So in the past 6 years, no one knew where Yi Shiwen was. But in this year, Yi Shiwen suddenly appeared. Although he appeared everywhere from time to time, it still made countless people excited. In the hearts of many people, Yi Shiwen was also a real target to be killed. Yi Shiwen was also very clear about this. However, he had been waiting for Mo Jingda and Ao Shiba. He must get rid of future troubles in the Tool Emperor Heaven. Otherwise, he didn't know how much trouble they would cause. After he successfully promoted the Demon Summoning Banner to a divine tool, the power of the Demon Summoning Banner increased greatly. However, he was still constantly looking for some divine tools. It would be best if he could directly subdue the divine tools. However, maybe his luck was not very good. Although he encountered a few defective divine tools, they were not divine tools. Defective divine tools were stronger than pseudo-divine tools, but they were not real divine tools after all. But he was not in a hurry, because he knew very well that the real big fish was still behind. There was a treasure house in the depths of the equipment Emperor Heaven. The treasure house would spit out countless divine tools at a certain time to repair the holes in the equipment Emperor Heaven. At that time, it would be a real harvest. That would also be the last year. There were still a few years left. His main goal was still there. Therefore, he was also looking for the divine tools if he could find them. It did not matter if he could not find them. More importantly, he was looking for Ao Shiba and Mo Jingda to eliminate future troubles. As he searched, he headed toward the treasure house of the equipment Emperor Heaven. He had to go now because the equipment Emperor Heaven was too vast. Even with his speed, if he did not enter as soon as possible, he might not be able to catch up. Moreover, Yi Shiwen did not believe that Mo Jingda and Ao Shiba would let go of the last treasure house to spit out divine tools. At that time, they would definitely gather in the treasure house and kill them. He had just left not long ago. An incomparably tyrannical aura descended. It was a middle-aged man with fluffy golden hair all over his body. Nobody knew what race he was from. He had a pair of wings on his back and looked extremely strong. Behind him, dozens of silhouettes descended. A few of them were comparable to Tao validation cultivators, while the rest were demigods with extremely profound cultivation. These were all old monsters who had cultivated for God knows how many years. Their auras were incomparably tyrannical. I finally tracked this Yishuan. He has been hiding like a mouse for a year. Someone behind this golden-haired, middle-aged man said. He had been chasing Yishuan's whereabouts for the past year. So, his heart was naturally filled with incomparable resentment. That's right. However, no matter how cunning a fox is, it can't beat a good hunter. Didn't we catch up with him now? Humph! This time, we'll make him die without a burial place. Someone said disdainfully. But, should we inform Ao Shiba and the others? You must know that they have paid a great price to capture this Yishuan. Someone looked at the golden-haired, middle-aged man and said, There's no need. Why should we inform them? Do we need to covet their rewards? Compared to the rewards given by Dragon Island and Covering Heaven Sect, what's more important is that we must plunder all of Yi Shiwen's fortuitous encounters. He is so powerful, so he must have inherited great luck. If we can kill him, plunder his luck, and plunder his fortuitous encounters, then we can rely on this great luck to prove our Tao. Isn't that good? The golden-haired, middle-aged man said faintly, We have been practicing hard for tens of thousands of years. Why are we always stuck at this checkpoint, watching those juniors surpass us one by one? In terms of talent, we were all famous heroes in the past. In terms of cultivation techniques, many of us are not bad either. However, we lack a little bit of luck, causing us to fall short of success. Although I am comparable to Tao confirmation, in the end, I'm not a Tao confirmation expert. This is our last chance. If we still can't grasp it, we will have no other way out except to turn into a cup of soil. Don't forget, we are about to enter the Angel Decay Stage 5. At that time, even God can't save us. We can only fight to the death. That's right. My fate is not up to the heavens. We can only fight to the death. Compared to Tao confirmation, the Emperor's treasure house is not important. We need to be alive to enjoy all the good things. Yes, that's it. Kill Yi Shiwen and plunder his fortuitous encounters. These people roared one after another. Their terrifying roars distorted time and space. They were some old monsters who had been practicing for many years. They were about to enter the Angel Decay Stage 5 for their last fight. Let's go and kill Yi Shiwen. Although he is powerful, we are not juniors like Ao Shiba and the others. Let them see that the skills we have accumulated are not useless. The golden-haired, middle-aged man roared. The wings behind him spread out directly, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. He chased after Yi Shiwen's aura. Yi Shiwen soon felt that there was a large group of people constantly chasing after him, so he simply didn't want to leave. He was very clear about the origin of these people who were chasing after him. Whether it was the masters of the major forces or those old guys, they all had a reason to kill him. He simply stopped and quietly waited for these people to arrive. Sure enough, they didn't disappoint him. In just a dozen breaths' time, they had already caught up to him. Dozens of figures surrounded him. The powerful aura they brought directly turned this space into powder. It was very terrifying. Dozens of tyrannical auras completely enveloped Yi Shiwen, not giving him the slightest chance to escape. Yi Shiwen, I've finally found you. You're very good at hiding. You've been running away for more than a year. The golden-haired middle-aged man couldn't help but sneer. You can hide? Ha, what a joke. Yi Shiwen sneered and looked coldly at these people. Do you think you have the chance to find me if I don't stop? Arrogant. You are courting death. I think you have really lost your mind. These masters suddenly became angry. They felt as if Yi Shiwen was looking down on them. Yi Shiwen, your strength is indeed good, but don't think that we are the same as Ao Shiba. To be honest, whether it is you or Ao Shiba, you are nothing. Your cultivation time is too short. Compared to us, you are just little dolls who have not grown up yet. The golden-haired middle-aged man sneered and said, You are wild lion ancestor. Yi Shiwen finally recognized this golden-haired middle-aged man. My cultivation is shallow, but it is still much better than you wasting your time. Since you know me, you should surrender as soon as possible. I've even killed gods before, so you can't possibly be a match for me. I also cherish your talent. So if you're willing to surrender and be my slave, I'll let you live. Otherwise, you'll die here today, and all of your fortuitous encounters and karmic luck will fall into our hands. Wild Lion Ancestor's face showed a somewhat satisfied smile, as if he was very satisfied that Yi Shiwen knew him. You really don't understand the situation. I think you are getting more and more muddle-headed. Well, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Originally, I wanted to lure Ao Shiba and Mo Jinga out, but I didn't expect to attract a group of old guys. I will use you guys to establish my prestige. When the time comes, let's see who dares to bother me. Yi Shiwen said indifferently. What? Wild Lion Ancestor was immediately enraged. This Yi Shiwen had completely ignored them and actually said such words. He was obviously the one who was surrounded and at a disadvantage, but now it seemed that he had completely gained the upper hand. Take my fist first. Yi Shiwen took a step forward, and the sky seemed to completely collapse under his feet. His whole body was like a tank, and when he blasted out a punch, the whole world was madly clanking under the pressure of his fist. He took the lead and attacked Wild Lion Ancestor with lightning speed. Wild Lion Ancestor didn't expect that Yi Shiwen would be so decisive in his attack. His face turned pale with fright, but his reaction wasn't slow. He quickly reacted, clenching his fist. He also rushed towards Yi Shiwen to kill him. Wild Lion Fist. The fist intent turned into a huge lion, and then rushed towards Yi Shiwen's human Dao world. Boom! Wild Lion Ancestor's incomparably huge golden lion was smashed into pieces by Yi Shiwen's world of Dao. There was no way for it to resist, and it was utterly defeated. His fist intent was broken on the spot, and at this time, Yi Shiwen's fist momentum did not decrease, and directly collided with Wild Lion Ancestor's fist. Bang! There was a loud sound like metal colliding, and then only heard Wild Lion Ancestor scream. His roar shook the heaven and earth, and his whole arm completely turned into blood mist in the sound of ka-ka-ka, and then exploded on the spot. Completely unimaginable terrifying power raged. Ding, ding, ding. Wild Lion Ancestor retreated again and again, covering his already broken wound, and looked at Yi Shiwen in horror. He never thought that Yi Shiwen would be so strong that he could not even take a punch from Yi Shiwen. How can he be so strong? Chapter 2248. Mad Lion Ancestor couldn't even block one of Yi Shiwen's moves. His face suddenly turned pale. Compared to Yi Shiwen, he was like a child too weak. Although Mad Lion Ancestor was comparable to a Dao confirming expert, His strength was tyrannical and had long surpassed the limits of mortals. However, before he could even use his moves, Yi Shiwen had already taken him down a notch. Yi Shiwen completely lifted the heavy as if it was light. Coupled with his Celestial Emperor tool refining technique, he could be said to be like a fish in water in the Weapon Emperor heaven. Compared to him, Mad Lion Ancestor was suppressed too much. Even if it was a master comparable to a Tao confirming expert, if they entered the Weapon Emperor heaven, they would have to be careful when facing the geniuses in the Weapon Emperor heaven. If a Tao confirming expert entered, he would immediately suffer from the heavenly Tao's backlash. This was also a big reason why those Tao confirming experts did not dare to enter. Even if they had various means, the Weapon Emperor heaven was after all not an ordinary world. However, Yi Shiwen could display 100% of his strength here. This was his biggest advantage. Mad Lion Ancestor's crippled arm rapidly regenerated. His eyes flashed fiercely. After the disbelief, he became even more ferocious. He had no way out. If he took another step back, he would be like the Tao confirming expert, turning into dust. He had no other choice. Crackle. Tyrannical Jin Yuan constantly erupted from Wild Lion Old Ancestor's body. With his body as the center, it formed an incomparably powerful storm of Jin Yuan. This was the terrifying power of Jin Yuan, turning the Jin Yuan into a storm. One could imagine how terrifying Wild Lion Old Ancestor was. Roar! An incomparably loud roar came. Mad Lion Ancestor's whole body turned into a huge golden lion, shaking the heavens and earth. There was a powerful, primordial, vicious beast bloodline in his body. Let's go, this guy is fierce. Let's go together. Otherwise, we will be killed by him. After witnessing Yi Shiwen's strength, the masters behind Mad Lion Ancestor almost instantly made a decision. They did not want to continue waiting like this. The opportunity was fleeting. These powerful demigods, even comparable to Tao confirming experts, roared one after another, shaking the heavens and earth. Then, they launched their attacks one after another, even faintly forming a joint force. Although they did not practice the Tao of joint attack, their cooperation was not bad at all. Boom! Countless martial arts torrents split into countless martial arts concepts and directly bombarded towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen wasn't afraid in the face of the joint attack of dozens of terrifying experts. He leaped into the sky, looked up towards the sky, and let out a long and loud shout. "If you don't repent, I'll send you on your way." Yi Shiwen coldly snorted, and a formidable aura swept out from his body. It was unknown how many times more tyrannical it was. Tianyuan Mirror appeared in his hand. After a long time, he once again used Tianyuan Mirror. Walala! In the sky, a long river of the yellow springs appeared and spread across the entire void. Even Yi Shiwen didn't dare to immerse himself in the yellow spring river's terrifying power for a long time, let alone these people. They were swept away in an instant. Bang! The power of the Yellow Springs River gushed out and instantly broke through the joint attack of these experts. It moved forward with unstoppable force, and its momentum did not decrease at all. Pucci, a demigod, was attacked on the spot and was completely corroded. He was completely melted away. In just an instant, a demigod was killed on the spot. What is this? Suddenly, those who had their attack broken did not have the mood to continue attacking. They were completely frightened. What a joke. What is this thing? It can actually corrode a demigod in an instant. These demigods had cultivated for many years. Their physical bodies had long been tempered to be extremely strong. It would be fine if they were blown up, but there was actually something that could easily corrode them. Pucci, Pucci, Pucci. At the moment when they were hesitating, more than a dozen demigods couldn't dodge in time and were directly melted by the Yellow Springs River that rushed out. That's the Yellow Springs. How is it possible? Such powerful Yellow Springs water can only appear in the Divine Tribulation. Although I haven't crossed the Divine Tribulation, I once saw an extremely powerful expert being corroded to death by the Yellow Springs water when he was crossing the Divine Tribulation. An old man who was comparable to a Tao confirming expert said in horror. He was almost scared to death. The Yellow Springs water was naturally divided into many levels. The Yellow Springs water that emerged during the divine tribulation was naturally very terrifying. Even a demigod who was about to enter the god realm could be directly melted away. He had only seen such a scene once in his life. However, he was scared out of his wits after seeing it. Since then, he didn't have the courage to trigger the divine tribulation. Even if his current combat power was comparable to a Tao-confirming expert, he was still not a Tao-confirming expert. When faced with that kind of terrifying Yellow Springs water, he would still be completely corroded. Yes, this is the Yellow Springs water that was triggered when crossing the divine tribulation. I've just kept it. You people want to cross the divine tribulation with this kind of strength? Don't even think about it. In this life, you will only be sitting and waiting for death. Yi Shiwen was merciless. Under his control, the Yellow Springs water had a tendency to spread to the heavens. The Yellow Springs was a kind of terrifying holy water that was condensed from the corpse water that flowed out of the dead. It represented boundless death. It was also a legendary, eternal holy river that flowed in the undead world. It had existed since ancient times. For the living, this was a kind of eternal and terrifying power. It swept through all directions. It was simply invincible. Even a Tao-confirming expert would feel afraid when looking at it. What? This is really the Yellow Springs water. Everyone suddenly panicked. Originally, everyone just said it. Everyone didn't quite believe it. However, they were almost scared to death after Yi Shiwen verified it. The Yellow Springs water. Although they hadn't really seen this thing, they had heard of it. At least half of the people who failed to cross the divine tribulation died on the Yellow Springs water. How could they not know about such a fierce and illustrious water? However, they were completely scared because they knew about it. Almost everyone who dared to trigger the divine tribulation was an outstanding expert at the peak of the demigod realm. Not even 1 in 100 people would dare to trigger the divine tribulation. If they didn't trigger the divine tribulation, they might be able to live for a few more years and make some preparations. However, once the divine tribulation was triggered, most of them would die immediately. What was even more abnormal was how Yi Shiwen subdued such a terrifying evil water. How could it be so terrifying? Wherever the Yellow Springs water passed, it simply swept away everything. Even a Tao-confirming expert wouldn't dare to stay on the Yellow Springs water for even a moment. Otherwise, they would be directly melted. Roar! You want to kill me? Wild Lion Ancestor roared. A huge wall appeared in front of him, completely blocking the Yellow Springs water. The rest of the people were protected. At this time, the others quickly began to maintain this huge energy wall. At this time, they didn't think about how to kill Yi Shiwen. It was too unrealistic. It was best to protect themselves. They fought and retreated, wanting to escape. You want to escape? Yi Shiwen's eyes flashed with a touch of anger. He commanded Tianyuan Mirror to collect the Yellow Springs water. This was a non-renewable resource. It couldn't be wasted. Then, streaks of blood-red light swept down. Bang! 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 Under the bombardment of Tianyuan Mirror, the energy wall they maintained was also on the verge of collapse. Huge cracks constantly appeared on it. What kind of monster is he? How can he be so strong? Can't the strength of a group of us be better than him? Fight! Don't break, otherwise we will definitely die. These top experts kept roaring, but it was useless. Under Yi Shiwen's offensive, they were too far behind. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow if they were to face Yi Shiwen alone. They wouldn't be a match for him at all. Heavenly Thunder summon, Yi Shiwen shouted loudly. From Tianyuan Mirror, a law lightning directly struck down on the spot. Rumble, the energy wall that they had desperately tried to maintain instantly collapsed. In the face of this terrifying law lightning, all resistance was futile. It was a joke. This is the lightning in God's retribution. No, even the lightning in God's retribution is not so terrifying. What kind of monster is he? Someone exclaimed. They were already in complete despair. Yi Shiwen's methods were endless, as if there would never be an end. In the face of all this, everything was too ridiculous. Overturning the sky seal. A huge seal fell down, directly smashing several peak demigod masters who couldn't dodge in time into meat sauce. They were completely not Yi Shiwen's opponent. This was a completely different level of strength. They were both at the peak of myth, but the difference between them was like a giant and an ant. Yi Shiwen, don't be too arrogant. An old fellow who was comparable to a Tao-confirming expert pounced over, bringing with him a world-shaking might. This meant that his strength was not weak. Whoosh! A long river of swordsmanship directly swept down. The sky-splitting sword burst out sharp sword light, cold like moonlight, sharp and cutting everything. Puff! The old guy was cut in half by the sky-splitting sword on the spot, and his primordial spirit was destroyed. Yi Shiwen took a step forward and rushed into the crowd. He launched a massacre and swept away everyone. No one was a match for him, especially when he was holding the broken space sword in his hand. He had several divine tools on his body, and using them to deal with these demigods was simply ridiculous, as if an adult was bullying a child. Even the mad lion ancestor, who was the strongest and almost touched the combat power of the middle immortal level, could not resist Yi Shiwen's sword. In this battle, the whole team was annihilated. The Equipment Emperor Heaven was shocked. Chapter 2249. Killing Wild Lion Ancestor and the others in one battle shocked the world. When many others who had received the news rushed over, they could only see corpses strewn all over the place. It was a complete mess. Many people couldn't help but secretly rejoice that they had come late. If they had come a little earlier, wouldn't they have been completely buried here? Especially after seeing the battle situation at the scene. Many people could imagine how terrifying it was even without using magical powers to recall the situation at that time. It could almost be said that it was a complete sweep. However, in this great tool Emperor Heaven, it was not easy for them to find clues. The suppression of the great tool Emperor Heaven was too strong. However, the only thing they could be sure of was that Yi Shiwen's terror was far beyond their imagination. There were still traces of the battle between the two sides. Countless sword Tao laws suppressed the heavens. Even looking at it from afar, there was a kind of feeling of fear. Originally, many people were very upset that they didn't find Yi Shiwen first. But now that they thought about it, there was no doubt that they were lucky to find Yi Shiwen first. They were rushing to their deaths. In particular, according to the ancient battle traces left at the scene, they could roughly estimate some of Yi Shiwen's strength. They couldn't help but tremble with fear. Although the whole battle was very fierce, it seemed to be a one-sided battle. Wild Lion Ancestor had an absolute advantage in terms of numbers, but in the overall battle, he was completely defeated. There were very few traces of their counterattack, mainly the traces of Yi Shiwen's attack. This made everyone even more frightened. Who had the absolute advantage in numbers? If they didn't look carefully, they would think that Yi Shiwen found a group of people to beat up Wild Lion Ancestor. Is he still human? They were completely dumbfounded. They didn't expect that it would turn out like this. Even the craziest person didn't expect that Yi Shiwen would erupt with such amazing combat strength. Many people guessed that Yi Shiwen must have obtained some great fortuitous encounter. Otherwise, how could his strength advance by leaps and bounds? In terms of strength, Wild Lion Ancestor was more than a level stronger than Ao Shiba and the others. After all, so many years of accumulation was not a joke. In many people's opinion, Yi Shiwen was at most similar to Wild Lion Ancestor and the others, but the result completely subverted everyone's expectations. This kid's momentum has already been established, and we're actually not his match. The new generation truly excels the old. It's true that talented people are born in every generation. There's actually such a peerless heaven's favorite in the human race. Unimaginable. Fortunately, we didn't rush to our deaths. After confirming that Yi Shiwen had easily killed Wild Lion Ancestor and the others, everyone turned their attention to the experts of Dragon Island and Shrouding Heaven Cult. They had been clamoring to kill Yi Shiwen all these years. It seemed as if they would kill Yi Shiwen anytime and anywhere. But now, Yi Shiwen had completely revealed his amazing strength. He wasn't a pushover that they could easily need. What were they going to do in the face of such a tyrannical master? even more terrifying news came out. There was a rumor that Yi Shiwen didn't intend to hide from these two sections. On the contrary, he was tracking down the whereabouts of Dragon Island and covering Heaven Cult. It seemed as if he wanted to exterminate these two sections. As soon as this news came out, the entire Tool Emperor Heaven was shaken. Whether it was shrouding Heaven Cult or Dragon Island, they could be said to be the most powerful sections. There were countless masters, like the sands of Ganges River, like the clouds in the sky, endless. Yi Shiwen wanted to challenge these two sects head-on. When the two sects heard this, they were all furious. For many years, no one dared to be so arrogant. Even transforming deity Abyss didn't dare to face these two sects at the same time, let alone Yi Shiwen. He actually dared to challenge the majesty of these two sections. It was simply an act of seeking death. However, Yi Shiwen was born in transforming deity Abyss, and there was also a behemoth like Hidden Valley above him. He was not a pushover that could be bullied by everyone. For a time, there was a storm among these outsiders. Countless people were waiting to see a conflict between the two sides. What's more, they hoped that transforming deity Abyss would also join in this battle. While everyone was waiting to see how the people of Dragon Island and the others would react, they didn't know that Ao Shiba didn't directly find trouble with Yi Shiwen as everyone thought. Instead, he directly went to the depths of the Tool Emperor Heaven. This was a very powerful tribe. Countless treasure demons shuttled back and forth. It was unknown how many years they had been in operation. There were hundreds of millions of treasure demons of different strengths living in this tribe. Suddenly, a calamity descended. A group of over 100 people directly charged in. These people were extremely powerful, sweeping through everything before them. Wherever they passed, the treasure demons couldn't even withstand a single blow. They were killed on the spot and refined. They weren't their opponents at all. This was Ao Shiba and the others. Although Ao Shiba suffered a big loss in the hands of Yi Shiwen, it wasn't because he was incompetent. It was just that Yi Shiwen was too powerful. He was almost invincible against these treasure demons that had not yet reached the Tao. No one was a match for him. "Who are you? How dare you break into my tribe?" An incomparably terrifying roar came from the sky. It was accompanied by a boundless, invisible pressure that crushed down. "Yin Long, come out and see me." Ao Shiba didn't show any fear. He roared on the spot. The entire tribe was in an uproar. They didn't know who this person was. A figure that was as huge as a mountain appeared, and a huge hand reached out to grab Ao Shiba. "Do you still recognize this token?" Ao Shiba took out a token with a dragon engraved on it. He directly inserted his spirit power into it and activated the token. The incomparably tyrannical figure screamed on the spot. He directly rolled down and crushed countless treasure demons to death. His body fiercely hit the ground, creating a huge crack. "You are from the Dragon Island," the huge figure said with a bit of fear in his voice. "Yes, it seems that you still remember," Ao Shiba said coldly. The surrounding treasure demons were completely scared silly when they saw this scene. They couldn't believe that the god of their tribe, the invincible god, had been easily subdued at this time. He didn't even have the strength to fight back. "You want to control a god? Dream on?" After the initial fear, the incomparably huge figure was shocked and angry. As a god, he was high and mighty and enjoyed the worship of everyone. It had been many years since someone dared to treat him like this. "If you want to die, you can give it a try. Although you have improved over the years, I believe that you should be able to sense that the gap between you and the old ancestor is still widening. If you obediently listen to my orders, then forget it. When I leave the Equipment Emperor Heaven, you can still be a local tyrant. Otherwise, I will kill you in an instant." Ao Shiba's eyes were cold as he looked at him. "What do you want me to do?" The figure gnashed his teeth and said. He had no choice but to lower his head when he was under the eaves. Ever since he met that person, although he borrowed his strength to prove his Tao, he was also forced to hand over his natal primordial spirit and became a slave. Now, even a junior dared to treat him like this. It was simply a great humiliation. However, that was a long, long time ago. It was so long ago that he had almost forgotten about it. If it wasn't for the sudden appearance of this person, he might have completely forgotten about it and become the local overlord of the Weapon Emperor Heaven. This was the last time. After this, he must find a way to erase the damned contract in his body. He absolutely couldn't let this happen again. Ao Shiba shot a glance at the Equipment Emperor Heaven. It seemed as if he had seen through the figure's thoughts, but he didn't care. In any case, he couldn't stay in the Equipment Emperor Heaven for long. I want you to kill a person, a human outsider. I know that there are many antiques in the Weapon Emperor Heaven who are disgusted by the large number of outsiders who come every 100,000 years. Some of them have secretly violated the rules of the Weapon Emperor Heaven and other worlds to secretly hunt outsiders. You're a native of this world. I want you to contact them and kill that Yi Shiwen. As long as you can do it, you'll naturally benefit from it. Our Dragon Island doesn't lack cultivation resources for you. With the resources we'll provide, it won't be difficult for you to advance further within 1,000 years. What do you think? Ao Shiba said indifferently. He had a carrot in one hand and a stick in the other. He wasn't afraid that Yi Shiwen would disagree. All right, just this once, just this once, the figure said while gnashing his teeth. At this time, Yi Shiwen was standing on a mountain peak with one foot. No matter how the wind blew, he didn't move. His body was surging with vitality, and the sound of rushing thunder could be heard. It was as if he had become one with the entire mountain range that rose from the ground. After a long time, he opened his eyes and let out a sigh of relief. He had been cultivating hard for a month, but there wasn't much of a breakthrough in his cultivation. Sure enough, at this stage of cultivation, it would take a long time. 100 years, 1,000 years, even 10,000 years to achieve a breakthrough. 1,000 years of cultivation is not as good as a chance encounter. Yi Shiwen sighed. In the past month, he had only consolidated his cultivation. There was still a long way to go before he could truly reach the peak of the Paoang Realm 9th level, and he didn't know how long it would take to truly prove his Tao. The best way now is to find the inheritance of the Equipment Emperor. If I can obtain the inheritance of the Equipment Emperor, my cultivation will advance by leaps and bounds. It won't be a problem for me to go all the way to prove my Tao. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen's eyes were a lot firmer. Dragon Island, covering Heaven Sect, any one of them was not easy to deal with. He didn't believe that Ao Shiba would give up so easily. He must be brewing some conspiracy somewhere since he didn't come out at this time. But he didn't care. As long as he continued to enhance his strength, it was too childish to care about any conspiracy. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen felt many tyrannical auras surging in the surroundings. Chapter 2250. Yi Shiwen immediately sensed many tyrannical auras shuttling through the void. He opened the Eye of Salvation and gazed into the distance, and he instantly saw that over 100 powerful auras were faintly visible and shuttling through space a few thousand kilometers away. And they were led by a powerhouse in the early stage of the immortality realm with a boundless tyrannical aura. This immediately attracted Yi Shiwen's attention. One must know that Yi Shiwen had beheaded many existences that were comparable to the Tao, confirming experts. However, the existences that were comparable to the Tao, confirming experts, were few and far between. Then, the genuine Tao, confirming experts, were 1 in a million. Any Tao, confirming expert, would enjoy a position of honor and cultivate to the peak. They were extraordinary, so they wouldn't easily dispatch them under ordinary circumstances. Now a Tao validation expert was personally dispatched, which made him feel a little strange. But before he could think too much, these hundreds of experts had already arrived by his side. This was a lineup of hundreds of experts. Without exception, all of them were at the peak of the demigod realm. Such a lineup could be called elite and tyrannical. These were all the best of the local treasure demons. But Yi Shiwen was not afraid. He operated the Celestial Emperor tool, refining technique. His aura was no different from the local treasure demons. They would not attack him because of this. He was also very clear that the treasure demons in the Equipment Emperor Heaven seemed to be very angry about the opening of a gap in the Equipment Emperor Heaven once every 100,000 years. Every time a gap was opened, The treasure house in the depths of the Equipment Emperor Heaven would spit out a large number of divine objects to repair the gap. The loss was the strength of the Equipment Emperor Heaven. Therefore, it was very hostile to outsiders. He could easily break into the depths of the Tool Emperor's Heaven by taking advantage of this. Other people wouldn't easily choose to enter the depths of the Tool Emperor's Heaven unless they had already arrived at the time when the Tool Emperor's treasure house was spitting out divine objects. Otherwise, they wouldn't choose to enter the depths of the Tool Emperor's Heaven. Moreover, these treasure demons seemed to be from the same force. They were dressed in bright yellow and were of excellent quality. The Duanlong clan is handling matters. The leading Dao validation expert's tone was quite arrogant. Obviously, he was very confident in the Duanlong clan. No matter who it was impossible to ignore the Duanlong clan. In the Equipment Emperor Heaven, this name represented supreme prestige. Yi Shiwen retreated a little. He was not afraid of trouble and would not easily cause trouble, especially in an environment like the Equipment Emperor Heaven where the enemy was unknown. Great Commander, why are you wasting your breath on him? If he dares to stand in our way, just kill him. Someone behind him suggested. Don't complicate matters. Let me ask you, did you see a heavily injured fallen angel coming here? That Dao confirming expert said. No, I've never seen them before. Yi Shiwen replied. Fallen angel. Has anyone from the devil race entered the Tool Emperor Heaven this time? That Dao confirming expert frowned and sized Yi Shiwen up. It seemed as if he was trying to determine whether Yi Shiwen was lying or not. Let's go and chase after her. We can't let her get away. The commander said coldly. I don't believe that she can still run far after being hit by my palm. A hint of anger appeared on his face. He had actually allowed someone to escape from his hands. It was simply a great humiliation. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes. Who were these people from the Duanlong clan looking for? Looking at their flustered and exasperated appearance, even the experts of Dao confirming level had personally come out. It must not be a small matter. However, this had nothing to do with him. The great commander didn't know that Yi Shiwen had already sized them up with the Eye of Redemption. All of them were treasure demons that had been born from the treasure energy. None of them had genuinely cultivated from a divine tool. He was very disappointed. He only wanted a divine tool to feed the heavenly source mirror. Otherwise, there would be no need to complicate matters. These people still didn't know that they had truly walked out of the gates of hell. They were able to survive because Yi Shiwen was too lazy to deal with them. Otherwise, they would have already died in Yi Shiwen's hands. These people dispersed one after another. They dispersed their divine senses and spread out in a fan shape to search. Although there weren't many of them, each and every one of them had tyrannical strength. It was difficult to escape from their search range within 100,000 miles. They had already disappeared into the horizon in a short while. Yi Shiwen was about to leave when suddenly, a pale, golden bloodstain suddenly appeared in the sky. It dripped down drop by drop. A petite figure fell out of the void. Yi Shiwen, a weak figure came out of that petite figure and fell down from the sky. Yi Shiwen quickly caught her in midair before she fell halfway. He saw that it was a young girl of the Fallen Angel clan. Her long, light gray hair was softly hanging on her chest. Her skin was as white as snow. However, her delicate face was deathly pale at this time. Pale golden blood was continuously overflowing from the corners of her mouth. Ling Fei. How could Yi Shiwen not recognize her? This wasn't the Ling Fei who had threatened to take him as a slave. She had wanted him to take her to the human world. Ling Fei seemed to be 1 or 2 years older than she had been in the past. She was 17 or 18 years old. She was at the age of a flower. She still had a bit of baby fat on her tender appearance in the past. However, she had completely grown up now. She was definitely a beauty who could cause the downfall of a country. However, Yi Shiwen found it strange that Ling Fei had come in. More importantly, he hadn't even sensed that Ling Fei had been hiding in the half-plane a moment ago. This was more dreadful than anything else. He would be courting death if someone were to come so close to him again without him being aware of it. However, he couldn't care so much at this time. He promptly picked up Ling Fei and took a big stride. He had already appeared thousands of miles away. Then, He had completely disappeared into the void with another stride. He had gone in the opposite direction from where those people had gone a moment ago. Those people had undoubtedly been looking for Ling Fei if he hadn't guessed wrong. Wouldn't he be caught red-handed if they were to turn around and attack him if he continued to stay here? And, just as Yi Shiwen had expected, those people had turned around and returned to their base. It's really related to that person from before. Damn it! This blood was left behind by that fallen angel. That great commander couldn't help but become furious. It was an extraordinary shame and humiliation. He had been tricked by Yi Shiwen. He had been completely fooled. But he hadn't known that they were passing by. Search! Send me a message. Search! We must find them. I want to dismember their corpses into thousands of pieces. The great commander roared. Great commander, she is the person that the second young master wants. It wouldn't be good to kill her. Someone reminded. Kill her. This is a time of crisis. This slut dared to steal the divine tool. She must be a spy. It's good to kill her. I will bear the responsibility if the second young master blames me. The great commander coldly said. Don't say anything. Chase. We must catch up with them. These people immediately chased in Yi Shiwen's direction. Yi Shiwen landed in a valley. He smelled the faint fragrance of her body. He put Ling Fei down. Then, he placed his hand on her back. He channeled his real elemental energy and operated the Phoenix regeneration technique in her body. The deathly pale color on her face faded a lot after a while. She began to look a little rosy. Cough, cough. She violently coughed twice and spouted out a mouthful of dirty blood. But her face looked a little rosy. Yi Shiwen heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that Ling Fei's injuries would immediately get better after spitting out this mouthful of dirty blood. Ling Fei finally got better after a while. This was also because the Phoenix regeneration technique was operating outside her body. If it was Yi Shiwen, this kind of injury wouldn't have taken so long. Yi Shiwen? Ling Fei shouted. Then, she lowered her eyelids, fell into Yi Shiwen's arms, and fell into a deep sleep. Yi Shiwen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was quite daring here. Moreover, she wasn't vigilant at all. However, he also knew that Ling Fei had consumed too much of her life energy. The Phoenix regeneration technique was amazing. However, it consumed her life energy every time she healed. The entire valley was abnormally quiet. It was so quiet that one could hear her faint breathing. Yi Shiwen didn't move. He was like a statue. The night sky of the Tool Emperor Heaven was no different from the outside world. The moonlight sprinkled down. It was full of treasures. The power of the moonlight was mixed with treasures and principles. It made people feel a kind of carefree feeling as if their whole body was opening up. Crackle. The bonfire next to her emitted crackling sounds from the burning branches, illuminating the valley. The cool, white moonlight shone on her face. Her creamy white skin looked even whiter than the snow. Her captivating red lips opened and closed from time to time. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. Her gem-like big gray eyes moved slightly. Then, she stretched her body. I haven't slept so well for a long time. Then, she turned her head to look at Yi Shiwen. She didn't feel the slightest bit embarrassed when facing Yi Shiwen. In fact, she looked like she was very familiar with him. Hey, don't you want to explain why you're here? Yi Shiwen asked. Hee. I heard that the Tool Emperor Heaven is very fun. So, I came here quietly. Ling Fei smiled sweetly. You came here quietly. Did you sneak out of the devil world again? Yi Shiwen recalled that Ling Fei had escaped from the devil world when she was just a great sage. Of course, she had been taken back by her elder in the end. However, it had left a very deep impression on Yi Shiwen. That elder had given Yi Shiwen an unfathomable feeling. It was simply immeasurable. What do you mean sneak out? Ling Fei was dissatisfied. She pouted her small mouth and kicked her slender white legs. It seemed as if she was relaxing the stiff muscles of her whole body. I walked out openly. I've been bored to death for hundreds of years. But you didn't come to play with me. Yi Shiwen suddenly blushed with shame. He had dared to go to the devil world's fallen angels territory to look for Ling Fei. However, he would have been killed in seconds with his weak strength at that time. Chapter 2251. He didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth at that time. He hadn't even reached the great sage realm, but he had dared to wander around the devil world. Now that he thought about it, he realized that he had been too stupid and naive at that time. There were countless experts in the weapon Emperor Heaven. It was hard to calculate. The devil world's foundation was stronger than the weapon Emperor Heaven. It had produced several devil monarchs. So, how could there not be any powerful experts? The Fallen Angel clan was one of the 8 royal clans of the devil race. Their strength was unimaginably deep. Even with Yi Shiwen's current strength, the man who had taken Ling Fei away was still unfathomable and unfathomable. Perhaps he wouldn't be able to come back if he went to find Ling Fei. Thinking of this, he thought of Man Yun. She was a sonorous woman who aimed to be the first female emperor since ancient times. He didn't know how she was doing now. You're distracted. What are you thinking about? Ling Fei puffed up her cheeks and looked at Yi Shiwen with dissatisfaction. Her gem-like eyes revealed a kind of emotion. She was very unhappy. Nothing. Yi Shiwen shook his head. You haven't said anything yet. Why did you run out? I don't want another person to suddenly appear at that time. I can't beat that uncle of yours. If he sees me with you again, he will think that I kidnapped you again. If that happens, I will be dead. So you're afraid of this. It's okay. Ling Fei stood up, bent down, and patted Yi Shiwen's head as she said, I'm already out of the devil realm this time. It won't be easy for them to find me. The myriad heavens and realms are so big. I can roam freely for a long time. These hundreds of years have almost made me stupid. Her tone was like coaxing a child. It made Yi Shiwen speechless. A touch of Snow White entered his eyes as Ling Fei bent down. A faint fragrance assailed his nostrils. Ling Fei also reacted. Her small face became somewhat flushed. However, she couldn't help but chuckle when she saw Yi Shiwen's awkward appearance. She was a little embarrassed, but also a little crafty. Yi Shiwen stood up, glanced at Ling Fei, and said, With your brain, you won't become stupid even after being locked up for 1,000 years. You said that. Can I understand that you're complimenting me? Ling Fei said with a smile. As you wish. Yi Shiwen replied. Sometimes he realized that he couldn't do anything to Ling Fei. Well, now that you have woken up, you should hurry up and leave. If you don't leave now, they will catch up to you. Although I don't know what kind of trouble you have caused, but it has nothing to do with me. You better stay away from me. I'm already in trouble. Don't drag me into it. Yi Shiwen said mercilessly. Do you really have the heart to chase me away? Ling Fei looked at Yi Shiwen with a pitiful expression on her face. They are very fierce. They even ruthlessly attacked such a cute and beautiful genius girl like me. I was your master. So, you can't ignore me. Yi Shiwen felt as if smoke was rising from the top of his head. How many years had it been since he had met a master? Moreover, he had never acknowledged him. Acting cute doesn't work on me. Let me tell you, those guys who are chasing you are nothing, but those guys who are looking for trouble with me are the real big trouble. Have you heard of Dragon Island? I have offended them now, so if you don't want to be implicated by me, then leave quickly. Yi Shiwen said in a threatening tone. Wow, it's so exciting. Ling Fei had already jumped up. It sounds so exciting. Take me with you. Take me with you. Are you sick? Yi Shiwen touched Ling Fei's forehead and asked with a puzzled look on his face. It's so exciting. Moreover, I don't have any relatives in the Weapon Emperor Heaven. Those people from the Broken Dragon clan will certainly not let me off. Do you have the heart to let me die alone? Ling Fei said pitifully. It's not too late if you leave now. Do you have some divine tool on your body that can conceal your aura? Even I couldn't detect your approach. Those idiots certainly can't find you. If you leave the Instrument Emperor Heaven now, they won't be able to catch up to you even if they want to. Yi Shiwen shook his head and said, I will be in big trouble if you follow me now. Yi Shiwen could see that Ling Fei must have some divine tool on her body that had isolated all her aura. He couldn't see through Ling Fei even if he opened his eyes of redemption. If you don't take me with you, then I will stay here and let them find me. Then they will kill me. Ling Fei simply sat down. I will spank you, but if you don't go. Yi Shiwen was forced. He had never met someone like Ling Fei. Whether it was Yi Qianqian's coldness, Hua Menghan's otherworldly elegance, or Man Yun's determination. None of them were as difficult to deal with as Ling Fei. He couldn't beat her, nor could he scold her. After all, she had helped him in the past. "Then you can spank me," Ling Fei said stubbornly. Her tears were about to fall. "I'm sorry to disturb the two of you flirting." Suddenly, an incomparably cold voice appeared above the valley. Hundreds of figures surrounded the entire valley along with this figure. They were none other than the great commander of the Broken Dragon clan and his group. Who else could it be? He looked at Yi Shiwen with an ashen face. This guy had fooled him in front of his face. He had been beating wild geese all day long. Now, the wild geese had pecked his eyes. It was a great humiliation. "It's you again, old man." Ling Fei simply jumped up. There was a bit of indignation on her delicate little face. She was injured in the hands of this great commander. "Go, Yi Shiwen, bite him." Ling Fei waved her little hand and said. Yi Shiwen was about to act, but he staggered and fell to the ground. "She really thinks that I'm a pet. She even wants to bite me. My illustrious reputation will be completely ruined if I do that. Don't think that we won't dare to do anything to you just because you're from the Fallen Angel clan. Our Duanlong clan has never been afraid of anyone. Could it be that the Fallen Angel clan would dare to kill their way into the Weapon Emperor Heaven?" The great commander bellowed with a malevolent expression on his face. "You slut, hand over the thing." Yi Shiwen's face was gloomy. It seemed as if he could wring water out of it. He shot a glance at the great commander and said, "Get lost or die." He was already in an extremely bad mood. So, he was extremely annoyed to see this great commander. "Good boy. Don't be too insolent. You won't have a good time if you oppose our Broken Dragon clan." The great commander of the Broken Dragon clan hadn't made his move yet, but the expert at the peak of the half-god realm behind him had made his move. Murderous aura burst forth and pervaded the sky. The formidable aura wasn't concealed at all. It formed an aura that soared to the sky. The sun, the moon, and the stars revolved along with his fist and surged throughout the vast sky. Bang! However, this terrifying aura had only appeared for a moment. Then it suddenly stopped on the spot. They saw that the expert's throat had been grabbed by a big, cheek-condensed hand and had been lifted into the sky. Bang! A loud bang was heard. This expert had turned into a rain of blood that had covered the sky. He had exploded with a loud bang. Only the void was still shaking. The rain of blood was fluttering, and the blood fog had filled the air. Even the moonlight had been covered with a layer of blood. "Don't you understand human language?" Yi Shiwen insipidly said. Comparable to Dao confirmation, these experts of the Broken Dragon clan had a bit of fear in their eyes. If Yi Shiwen was just an ordinary peak of the half-god realm, then it wouldn't be a big deal. However, he was actually a peak of the half-god realm comparable to Dao confirmation. This situation was completely different. Comparable to Dao confirmation? What a good comparable to Dao confirmation. Even if you are comparable to Dao confirmation, you are not Dao confirmation. The great commander of the Broken Dragon clan roared and directly blasted a punch towards Yi Shiwen. A heavenly dragon rushed out of his body, and the sky instantly exploded. Endless laws emerged one after another. Under his control, it turned into a heavenly dragon that swallowed the heaven and earth and directly blasted towards Yi Shiwen. He could see that Yi Shiwen was a strong opponent, so he didn't dare to show any mercy. Yi Shiwen coldly snorted. He forced out a sword aura from his finger, pinched it into a sword sign, and instantly slashed it, meeting the heavenly dragon head-on. Boom! The sword aura and the dragon's head collided fiercely, and the collision erupted with an incomparably powerful force. Clang! The sword aura increased in an instant, and light splashed out. In just an instant, the heavenly dragon's head was cut off, and its entire body exploded. In an instant, it was cleanly broken. Although it is not Dao confirmation, it is more than enough to break you. Yi Shiwen's voice was cold, and golden divinities appeared under his feet, forming a monstrous wave. He walked on the wave and forced out a sword sign with his finger, charging towards the Broken Dragon clan's great commander. He didn't even bother to use the sky-splitting sword. The situation was completely different from when he had just broken through and fought against the Abyss Demon Master. The Broken Dragon clan's great commander's strength was above the Abyss Demon Master, who had just broken through. But Yi Shiwen was more than 10 times stronger than before. What an amazing sword aura! You are not a native of the Instrument Emperor Heaven, and I have never seen a martial art like yours. The Broken Dragon clan's great commander couldn't help but shout. That is because you are inexperienced. Yi Shiwen would definitely not admit it. The sword sign in his hand turned into a long sword and slashed down. You're going too far? The Broken Dragon clan's great commander was enraged. Today, I will let your blood splatter on the spot and let you understand the gap between Dao confirmation and true Dao confirmation. Dao confirmation. Although the combat strength of Dao confirmation was comparable to Dao confirmation, in reality, there were very few who could defeat Dao confirmation. That was why the Broken Dragon clan's great commander was so confident. His 5 fingers clenched into a fist, and a powerful fist power surged within, forming an ocean of fist power. It turned into a vast ocean without an end. This was the domain formed by his fist power, and it had an incomparably domineering aura. Even the stars would lose their color in the domain of his fist power, submitting to his Tao of fist. Between heaven and earth, it instantly turned into a vast and boundless world of Tao of fist. His attainments in Tao of fist had long reached an exceptionally amazing level. Let me sublimate to the peak and smash everything that dares to block my way with one move. Chapter 2252. You? Yi Shiwen said. He took a step forward, and the golden wave under his feet directly turned into a giant dragon, charging into this terrifying boxing domain. The result surprised the masters of the Duanlong family. It was completely different from what they initially imagined. They originally thought that the great commander's boxing domain was enough to compete with any powerful master. However, it was completely shattered under the tearing of the golden dragon under Yi Shiwen's feet. This golden dragon was thousands of miles long. With a turn of its body, it could make the sky fall and the earth crack. It tore the domain all the way and charged towards the great commander. The senior commander clenched his fists tightly and punched them together in midair. The space torn open by the golden dragon also slowly healed. It seemed to trap Yi Shiwen in it. Countless fist energies rushed towards Yi Shiwen like stormy waves. They transformed into a terrifying force and rushed towards Yi Shiwen one after another. Each wave was a full-powered attack from a Dao confirming expert. At the level of a Dao confirming master, the spiritual power was almost endless. There was no need to be afraid at all. A casual attack would be a full blow with infinite power. Comparable to a Dao confirming master was only comparable to a Dao confirming master in terms of combat power. It was not comparable to a Dao confirming master in all aspects. Therefore, there were always individuals who could defeat a Dao confirming master. This was also the true source of the Duanlong family's great commander's confidence. Unfortunately, he couldn't see through Yi Shiwen's actual situation. He was one of those few individuals. In the face of such a boundless power, Yi Shiwen didn't back down. His eyes erupted with the power of redemption, which directly swept out. In terms of the cultivation of the power of redemption, he had already reached the pinnacle. Boom! 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 These waves that slammed over were directly blasted by his power of redemption on the spot. They were not a match at all. The golden dragon under his feet was still constantly advancing, sweeping all the way. This boxing domain couldn't stop Yi Shiwen's breakthrough at all. It directly swept out a path to invincibility. Yi Shiwen's strength was completely beyond the expectations of the Duanlong clan's great commander. The power of the Eye of Redemption was far beyond his imagination. At least it didn't exist in the tool Emperor Heaven. For him, this was a brand new magical power. Obviously, it was not in his understanding. The power of redemption was to redeem the world and see through the essence in an instant. Therefore, this kind of trick was useless in front of Yi Shiwen's Eye of Redemption. Roar! The Duanlong clan's grand commander roared. The fist Dao domain was absorbed into his body. He clenched his fists and punched out. The sun, moon, and stars revolved around his fists, forming a real universe. This was actually drawing in the power of the stars from the distant universe. Borrowing the power of the stars from the universe, he suppressed all his opponents. This was also a very brilliant fist technique. Damn you! Prepare to die! Our Duanlong family's stardust revolving art is unparalleled. Today, you will die without a burial. Die obediently. Behind him, the masters clamored one after another. They were frightened by Yi Shiwen just now. For them, it was a great shame. At this time, they roared one after another. Stardust revolving art is indeed a good technique. However, it's too weak in your hands. Yi Shiwen clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and punched out, breaking the stars in the universe on the spot. Rumble! The universe stars drawn by the Duanlong clan's stardust revolving art were smashed by Yi Shiwen on the spot, shattering inch by inch. Yi Shiwen took a step forward and blasted towards the Duanlong clan's Grand Commander. Bang! The power of his fist turned into the power of salvation, blasting into the chest of the Duanlong family's great commander, sending him flying hundreds of miles away like a cannonball. He slammed into the ground, creating a deep crack in the ground. The masters of the Duanlong clan were completely stunned. They were like ducks that were strangled by the neck, unable to shout a word. The stardust revolving art that they were most proud of was easily broken by Yi Shiwen like garbage. A fist-sized blood mark appeared on the chest of the Duanlong clan's Grand Commander. His flesh and blood were scattered by Yi Shiwen. For him who had a divine shell, this was simply inconceivable. Ever since he arrived at Dao validation, his divine shell had not been injured for a long time. Those so-called demigods who were comparable to Dao validation experts were rare enough to fight with him for more than 100 moves without falling into a disadvantageous position. Moreover, he had never seen or heard of someone who could injure him. For the first time, he looked at Yi Shiwen with a bit of fear in his eyes. This young man was too terrifying. Even among the real Dao validation experts, it was rare to see someone with such power. Well done! Kill that old guy! On the side, Ling Fei clapped her hands and cheered. Her small face was flushed. Obviously, she was very excited. Previously, she was injured by the Duanlong clan's Grand Commander. She hated him to the core. If she had not met Yi Shiwen, she would probably have died in their hands. Boom! Yi Shiwen's offensive followed him like a shadow. His strongest point was his physical body. Therefore, he didn't hide it at all. Another divine fist of redemption smashed down. At this moment, he was like the rebirth of the legendary, incomparably powerful Lord of Redemption. He was incomparably powerful. Bang! Divine radiance splashed and blood splattered. The Duanlong clan's Grand Commander and Yi Shiwen collided head-on. His entire arm was almost smashed on the spot. His flesh and blood directly collapsed, revealing the dense bones within. There were even cracks on the golden bones. It was completely shaken by Yi Shiwen. This scene shocked everyone in the Duanlong clan. In their hearts, their Grand Commander had never been defeated by an existence who had not reached Dao validation. He was an invincible existence. Now, he was actually defeated. However, he looked dispirited and pale. He constantly staggered back to remove the violent power acting on his body. One of his arms was almost completely crippled. His gaze was fixed on Yi Shiwen. He did not dare to relax at all. The desolation of being past one's prime welled up in his heart. This was a feeling that should not have appeared. After proving the Dao, the gods would be immortal and would always be in their strongest state. Being past one's prime was a mortal state that could never appear on the gods. But at this time, it completely appeared in his body. He was once one of the heaven's prides who had shaken the imperial weapon heaven back then. He was born in the most orthodox Duanlong clan, and his star fragment revolving technique had defeated countless opponents. His fist was his strongest weapon, and after confirming his Dao, his attainments became even more unfathomable. But now it had been broken by someone easily broken. He was very strong, but the person opposite him was even stronger. This made him feel a sense of desolation in his heart. Could it really be that the new generation surpasses the old, and each generation is stronger than the previous one? This was no longer a battlefield that he could dominate. He was still lamenting, but Yi Shiwen did not give in at all. He took a step forward, transformed into the Lord of Redemption, and blasted a punch. The Duanlong clan's commander screamed. His other arm that resisted also exploded on the spot. Along with the void being blown into powder, a golden rain of blood fell from the sky. I told you to get lost, but you didn't. Yi Shiwen, who was already furious, vented all of his impatience and negative emotions on the Duanlong clan's great commander. Bang! The Duanlong clan's commander's chest was pierced. Bang! 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 The fist of redemption continued to fall. At first, the Duanlong family commander could still scream. He wanted to resist Yi Shiwen by relying on the powerful recovery ability of a deity. But soon, he slowly lost his breath. No matter how strong his recovery ability was, it was still a far cry from Yi Shiwen's offensive. Until the end, he was completely silent. The Duanlong clan's commander had been blasted into meat paste by Yi Shiwen on the spot. Yi Shiwen suddenly felt that his mind was clear. He felt a little strange in his heart. He did not know why just now. There was a surge of anger in his heart. It seemed that what they said had touched his reverse scale. Otherwise, it would not be like this. A great master of Tao confirming level, a powerful existence who was once invincible in his generation, now died in the hands of Yi Shiwen. It was not that he was not strong, but that someone stronger had appeared. Counting it, this was Yi Shiwen's third time slaughtering a god. Slowly, this was nothing to him. The remaining people of the Duanlong clan were completely scared. How was this possible? It was not that demigods had never slaughtered a god, but every time it happened, it was an earth-shattering battle, a battle that shocked the entire Weapon Emperor heaven. Once such a person was born, he would be an outstanding person. It could be said that it was difficult to find one in 1,000 or even 10,000 years. Now it happened in front of them. If it was true that a great battle happened, it would be nonsense. Because from the beginning to the end, it was Yi Shiwen who was suppressing the Duanlong clan's great commander. The Duanlong clan's great commander had no strength to fight back. Go quickly. Report to the clan and ask them to send people to kill this guy. Someone shouted and fled in all directions. Yi Shiwen, don't let them escape. Otherwise, we won't be able to escape if we inform the people of the Duanlong clan. Ling Fei quickly said loudly. You don't need to tell me, I know. Yi Shiwen's big hand stretched out and turned into palm shadows that filled the sky. These elite demigod peak experts of the Duanlong clan who wanted to escape couldn't escape at all. They were horrified to find that the surrounding space had been sealed. It was completely sealed by a strong force. They couldn't move at all. Yi Shiwen suddenly clenched his fist. It seemed as if these people had been squeezed by some inconceivable force. They exploded in the air with a loud bang and turned into a mass of blood fog. Then they completely exploded. None of them escaped. Compared to Yi Shiwen, their strength was too weak. Now, can you tell me why they are so desperate to kill you? Yi Shiwen turned to look at Ling Fei. Chapter 2253. Yi Shiwen looked at Ling Fei. No matter which force, a Tao-confirming expert was the most precious treasure. Except for young heroes like Ao Shiba, 10 wild lion-old ancestors, or even 100 wild lion-old ancestors were not as valuable as a Tao-confirming expert, even though their combat power might be similar. But the value between them was like heaven and earth. The most important point was that as long as an immortal realm powerhouse did not encounter a great calamity, he would be immortal. For a force, there was nothing more important than this. One could imagine how anxious the Duanlong clan was to be able to send such a master to capture him. Yi Shiwen guessed that the people who came out to capture him were far more than just this group. Perhaps they had already divided into many groups to capture him together. Ling Fei glanced at Yi Shiwen and then said, It's nothing much. I just took their broken dragon stone, and they chased me all the way here. Broken dragon stone? Yi Shiwen was a little puzzled. How important was this broken dragon stone that it was worth the Duanlong clan to go to such lengths? Broken dragon stone, Duanlong clan, there shouldn't be any connection. I don't know either. I've only heard their second young master say that it's the foundation of their Duanlong clan. It's something that the Tool Emperor had left behind when he was refining tools. Ling Fei quietly glanced at Yi Shiwen and said. Yi Shiwen couldn't help but be a little speechless. No wonder the Duanlong clan went crazy to capture Ling Fei. The reason why the Duanlong clan was called Duanlong clan was probably related to this broken dragon stone, and this broken dragon stone was related to the legendary Tool Emperor. No wonder the Duanlong clan was so nervous. But this thing should be heavily guarded. How could you get in touch with it? Yi Shiwen couldn't see through Ling Fei's cultivation. However, she was injured by the Duanlong clan's great commander and was able to escape. So, Yi Shiwen could more or less determine that Ling Fei's cultivation was comparable to Dao confirming. She shouldn't have reached Dao confirming. With such a cultivation, it was impossible to steal the broken dragon stone no matter what. That stupid second young master wanted to show off in front of me. So, he took me inside to have a look. But, he still dared to make a move on me. So, this young lady taught him a good lesson. Then, I will take the broken dragon stone away. I will infuriate him to death. Ling Fei wrinkled her pretty nose and said with a smile, Yi Shiwen, you have to help me take revenge. That idiot is too annoying. Yi Shiwen frowned. If the Duanlong clan couldn't find the broken dragon stone, they wouldn't give up. Here, I'll give this broken dragon stone to you. Ling Fei flipped her fair and tender little hand, and an incomparably huge stone tablet appeared in her hand. It was about the height of 3 people, and there were 3 ancient and profound characters inscribed on it. Broken dragon stone. It was faintly exuding a kind of heavy pressure. It was a kind of divine object. It looked like a magic tool, but it didn't look like one. It could only be said that it was a kind of divine object that Yi Shiwen didn't recognize. Yi Shiwen didn't say anything. He directly collected the broken dragon stone and put it into the Tianyuan mirror. Hey, you've accepted the things. So, you can't leave me behind. Ling Fei grabbed the corner of Yi Shiwen's clothes and said in a flattering manner. A pair of big light gray eyes stared at Yi Shiwen. I know. Yi Shiwen didn't know what to do with her. I knew that you couldn't bear to part with me. Ling Fei immediately bounced up and down as she said, Where are we going next? To the Broken Dragon clan. Yi Shiwen looked into the distance, as if he could see the Broken Dragon clan in the depths of the Tool Emperor Heaven. 3 days later, the Broken Dragon city occupied by the Broken Dragon clan welcomed a man and a woman. Their entry didn't attract anyone's attention, because during this period of time, there were too many people coming to the Broken Dragon city. This Broken Dragon city, which accommodated hundreds of millions of people, was almost a giant country. There were tens of millions of people coming and going every day. It was really too conspicuous. As the center of the Broken Dragon clan, it was naturally incomparably prosperous. At this time, Yi Shiwen had already changed his appearance. He had changed his appearance with the restraining breath technique. He was wearing a purple robe, and his face was handsome. His whole body was sharp and threatening. He was a proud young man, and his background wasn't small. Ling Fei, who was next to him, had already retracted her fallen angel wings. She had changed her appearance and became more mature and gorgeous. However, there was a bit of playfulness in her light laughter from time to time. Yi Shiwen chose to go to the Broken Dragon City because of the so-called darkness under the light. The more one cared about a place, the more one would become a blind spot. The people of the Broken Dragon clan probably never thought that they would actually dare to come to the Broken Dragon City. Even if they thought about it, it was useless. The two had already concealed their auras and were no different from the indigenous people of the Tool Emperor Heaven. I didn't expect that there is such a prosperous city in the Tool Emperor Heaven, Yi Shiwen said lightly. Many places that he had passed through before were still in the form of tribes which were very backward. This Broken Dragon clan was different after all. However, it didn't mean that existing in the form of tribes was necessarily backward. The situation of each place was different. Sigh, the Tool Emperor Pavilion is really too much. The Broken Dragon Stone is our Broken Dragon clan's ancestral divine object, and they actually want to take it away. What can they do? The Tool Emperor Pavilion is powerful. In recent years, the trend of unifying the Tool Emperor Heaven has become more and more obvious. I don't think there is anything wrong with this. If the Tool Emperor Pavilion unifies the Tool Emperor Heaven, we should be able to concentrate all our strength to rush out of the Tool Emperor Heaven and let the heavens witness the power of our Tool Emperor Heaven. Sigh. It is said that this is the last resort left by the Tool Emperor before he disappeared in the past. What else can we do? Countless people were discussing. The bustling Broken Dragon City seemed to have a feeling of the calm before the storm. The Tool Emperor Pavilion, just by listening to these people, one would know that it was another terrifying colossus in the Tool Emperor Heaven. However, Yi Shiwen felt a little strange. The Broken Dragon Stone was in his hands now. It seemed that the Broken Dragon clan hadn't announced this matter. Now, the whole world must be anxious to find the whereabouts of the Broken Dragon Stone. He glanced at Ling Fei. Ling Fei seemed to feel something. She raised her head, stuck out her tongue, and then rolled her eyes at Yi Shiwen. It seemed that she was saying, "What does it have to do with me?" In order to keep the Broken Dragon Stone, the Broken Dragon clan has invited young heroes to participate in the martial arts competition between the two clans. As long as we defeat the expert sent by the Tool Emperor Pavilion, we don't have to hand over the Broken Dragon Stone. However, it is said that the Tool Emperor Pavilion's Feng Qingji, who has just confirmed his Dao, will come in person. Our Broken Dragon clan doesn't have anyone who can deal with him. For this martial arts competition, the Broken Dragon clan has invested countless resources. However, the root of the problem is not here. If we can't find someone who can contend with Feng Qingji, everything will be in vain. The Broken Dragon Stone will also be handed over to the Tool Emperor Pavilion. It is said that the Broken Dragon Stone is hiding a big secret. Martial arts competition, Yi Shiwen. Such an interesting thing. Let's go and participate. Ling Fei hugged Yi Shiwen's arm and said, "You really wish for the world to be in chaos. Do you know that the people of the Broken Dragon clan are looking for you now? They're just short of turning the sky upside down." Yi Shiwen was speechless as he said, Ling Fei wished for the world to be in chaos. She simply wished for the world to be in chaos. The consequences would be unimaginable if they found out. There were countless experts in the Broken Dragon City. Yi Shiwen could faintly sense that there were many experts in the Broken Dragon City. He also knew that these people's auras were deliberately released in order to deter some people with bad intentions. Naturally, there were people like Yi Shiwen among them. They don't know. If you don't say it, and I don't say it, how will they find out? Ling Fei said with a smile. Yi Shiwen had the restraining breath technique. No one could find out about him. However, Ling Fei also had her own unique instrument. No one could find out about her actual situation. Moreover, I heard from that idiot that whoever can represent the Broken Dragon clan to participate in the competition will receive great benefits. At that time, it won't be a problem for your cultivation to advance to the next level. Such a good opportunity doesn't come by often. Yi Shiwen was a little interested when he heard this. His current cultivation had stagnated. If he wanted to go further and cultivate to the peak of Paoang Realm 9th level, he would need to spend more than 100 years at the fastest. As the saying goes, 1,000 years of bitter cultivation is not as good as a fortuitous encounter. He immediately made up his mind. Let's go and have a look. The core of the Broken Dragon City was where the Broken Dragon clan was located. It was the Broken Dragon Mansion. Other people were just vassals of the Broken Dragon clan. They were not qualified to live in the Broken Dragon Mansion. After entering the boundary of the Broken Dragon Mansion, Yi Shiwen clearly felt that the power of the Matrix shrouded his body faintly. There were all kinds of experts. It was bustling. At a glance, there were demigod-level existences everywhere. Demigods were considered as small experts in the Tool Emperor Heaven. However, here they were just like ordinary people. Yi Shiwen and Ling Fei walked all the way in and did not attract anyone's attention. There are so many people today. Usually, there are not so many people at the entrance of the Broken Dragon Mansion. There are so many experts. Is that Shui Tianyu? It is said that he has already reached the peak of the demigod realm. His combat power is comparable to the existence of Tao confirmation. He is a well-known genius in the surrounding thousands of miles. Even he is attracted to this martial arts competition. In the void, someone flashed. He was dressed in white and walked into the Broken Dragon Mansion. It was Xue Tianyu who was mentioned by those people. This person's breath was very powerful. It was condensed with the void. Even the matrix of the Broken Dragon Mansion had no way to prevent him from being compatible with the world. However, Yi Shiwen found that there was more than one such peerless figure. It was very amazing. How many experts were attracted to this martial arts competition? It was really amazing. There are so many experts in the tool Emperor Heaven. The Xian world cannot be compared with the tool Emperor Heaven. The third district of the God Transforming Abyss is far inferior to this place. I wonder how many experts there are in the second district and the first district. Yi Shiwen thought, dang. A melodious bell rang and shook the entire Broken Dragon City. Chapter 2254. Everyone. A figure appeared in front of everyone as the bell rang. It was a middle-aged man in a luxurious robe. He looked around as if he was looking at everyone. Tao validation expert. Another Tao validation expert. Yi Shiwen's heart skipped a beat. Putting aside the great commander of the Duanlong clan, he actually saw another Tao confirming level master. It was simply unimaginable how many such masters the Duanlong clan had. They had been passed down for countless years, and their foundation was deep and terrifying. Even so, when the Duanlong family faced the Equipment Royal Pavilion, they were still suppressed to the point of suffocation. How tyrannical was the Equipment Royal Pavilion? Yi Shiwen realized that he really could not look at the world from his original perspective. This world was far more vast and boundless than he thought. Whether it was the Equipment Royal Heaven or the Deification Abyss, there were powerful existences that far exceeded his original understanding. If he was still in the Xian world, he might not be able to solve these things in his lifetime. This is the Duanlong family's foreign affairs chief, Wushang Duanlong. It is rumored that before he reached Tao validation, he once defeated a Tao validation expert. After that, he passed the deity's tribulation and became even more amazing. Once he reached Tao validation, he was already invincible in the early stages of the immortality realm. He could be called a legend, a myth. I've also heard of his legend. I didn't expect Wushang Duanlong to be in charge of the recruitment this time. Yi Shiwen was slightly surprised. Wushang Duanlong could actually defeat a Tao validation expert. This was very rare. To be able to resist a Tao validation expert was already 1 in 10,000. Among these demigods who could resist a Tao validation expert, only 1 in 100 could defeat a Tao validation expert. It was enough to shock the world if it was said that Yi Shiwen was able to slaughter the gods as if it was just a game. The gods were eternal and immortal. Each of them was the beloved child of the heavens. They possessed unimaginable trump cards. It was absolutely impossible to slaughter them unless one had an absolute advantage. He killed the Duanlong family commander with absolute strength. Killing the Abyss Demon King and the Divine Union leader was more or less a trick. They could not be considered to be in their peak condition. Otherwise, their great battle back then would have been earth-shattering. This time, our Duanlong family thanks everyone for coming to help us. Anyone who came to help will be rewarded handsomely. Duanlong Wushang said. The crowd was in an uproar. They were all here to participate in the selection this time, and the best among them and the final winner would join the geniuses of the Duanlong clan to fight against the peerless geniuses of the Equipment Sovereign Pavilion. The Duanlong clan wanted to protect the Broken Dragon Stone, so they didn't think too much about it. Other than the benefits of the Duanlong clan, they also wanted to fight against the experts of the Equipment Sovereign Pavilion. All of them were peerless geniuses, and none of them would admit that they were inferior to others. Once they were able to defeat the geniuses of the Weapon Emperor Pavilion, it would be sufficient for them to become famous in the world. Waves of tyrannical aura were released without any concealment. Many of them were existences comparable to those who had proven their Tao. There were even some who had hidden their trump cards and had terrifying combat prowess. It was not hard to imagine how intense the upcoming battle would be. Once you were selected, you will become the representative of our Duanlong clan. Regardless of success or failure, our Duanlong clan will open the Broken Dragon Pond. I believe everyone has a certain understanding of the Broken Dragon Pond. This is one of the places where His Majesty, the Equipment Emperor, refined tools. If everyone can comprehend some of His Majesty, the Equipment Emperor's Tao, it can be considered that we did not open it in vain. Duanlong Wushang said. Many geniuses looked very calm. Obviously, they had already received the news from the inside. Probably only Yi Shiwen hadn't heard of it. I won't say too much nonsense. Everyone come with me and enter from the transmission array on the right. I hope you don't force yourselves, because this place has set up a barrier based on strength. If you don't have enough strength to force your way in and something happens, our Duanlong clan will not be responsible. After Duanlong Wushang finished speaking, he directly walked into the transmission array on the right and was transported away with a swoosh. At this time, everyone followed one after another. Yi Shiwen was also mixed in the crowd. Sure enough, some people overestimated themselves and were crushed into pieces on the spot by the terrible power contained in the transmission array. Yi Shiwen was also secretly speechless. Mu and Ling Fei followed the flow of people and squeezed into the transmission array. They suddenly felt an enormous pressure crushing down on them and forcing them into their bodies. In fact, it seemed as if their bodies would explode on the spot. However, he only overflowed a little bit of divinity, and this pressure was eliminated. Ling Fei didn't seem to care at all. This pressure was eliminated by the mysterious instrument in her body. Their vision blurred, and they appeared in a subspace. In the center of this subspace, 10 incomparably huge arenas were floating in midair and exuding soft rays of light. And there were floating thrones in this subspace. Some tyrannical figures were sitting on the thrones. Their auras were crushing in all directions, as if they were the rulers of the world. Yi Shiwen followed the crowd and walked into a public square. Ling Fei looked around excitedly, as if she had never seen such a selection before. And Yi Shiwen immediately swept his divine senses into the thrones. Although the thrones were hidden in a deeper layer of space, and it was impossible to reach those thrones by flying normally for a lifetime. But who was Yi Shiwen? For him, this was not a problem at all. Almost in an instant, he had already swept his divine senses. He found that the figures on these thrones were almost all Tao, confirming experts of the Duanlong clan. Many of them had profound martial power to an unimaginable degree. The people who came this time are not bad. Although it's a last-minute decision, these people are indeed geniuses. Even if not everyone can represent our Duanlong clan in this martial arts competition with the Tool Emperor Pavilion, we can still recruit the others. Our Duanlong clan has always despised such geniuses, and never despised having too many. That's right. If our Duanlong clan wants to prosper for eternity, it's not enough to rely on our own clan members. We need to recruit more outstanding talents and let them serve our Duanlong clan. However, these geniuses claim to be able to contend against Tao confirming experts. After all, they aren't Tao confirming experts. Among these people, I don't know how many of them can Tao confirming experts. If they don't Tao confirming experts, they will forever be ants. If they don't Tao confirming experts, they will only have the strength of Tao confirming experts. Only those who have Tao confirming experts can play chess. Yi Shiwen remained calm and collected. His divine thoughts were hidden very deeply. Even these gods couldn't detect it. He mainly wanted to know himself and his enemy, and he would never be defeated. It turned out that the Duanlong clan had such a plan. No wonder they were willing to spend so much to cultivate top experts. He had long noticed that there were many geniuses. These were geniuses from outside. Not to mention that the Duanlong clan must have cultivated a large number of geniuses themselves. However, he didn't care. Anyway, he had a card up his sleeve. Even if he encountered a master in the middle of the immortal level, he could still contend with them, let alone these who could contend with the existence of the righteous. He wanted to know more about the secrets of the Duanlong clan. Most importantly, What exactly was the origin of the broken dragon stone that made the Duanlong clan so nervous? Not to mention, the equipment sovereign pavilion was so overbearing, wanting to seize the broken dragon stone. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen heard a few people's conversation. This time, we can only win and not lose. Otherwise, even the broken dragon stone will be taken away by the people of the Tool Emperor Pavilion. That is the foundation of our Duanlong clan. We can't allow any damage to it. Yes, our ancestors of the Duanlong clan have comprehended in front of the broken dragon stone. Nowadays, many of the martial arts of our Duanlong clan come from the broken dragon stone. We must not give up. The broken dragon stone actually had such an origin. Yi Shiwen's heart moved slightly. Dang! Another bell rang, and everyone's attention was focused on the void. The figure of Wu Shang appeared again. Countless laws appeared around his body, and his whole body was covered in golden light. These golden lights radiated out and formed a mass of clouds and mist. Among them, his various martial arts were changing rapidly. This Wu Shang was much more powerful than the great commander of the Duanlong clan that Yi Shiwen had encountered before. No wonder he was sent to preside over this selection. One must know that those who could participate in the selection were all peerless geniuses. Each and every one of them was arrogant and unruly. If there was no special means, how could they be suppressed? I know that some of you may know me, and some of you may not. Let me introduce myself. I am the Foreign Affairs Chief of the Duanlong clan, Wu Shang. You have given us face by coming to participate in the selection of our Duanlong clan. You are our guests. Broken Dragon Wu Shang slowly opened his mouth and said, but before the selection begins, I still want to make it clear to all of you. I even have a good relationship with your ancestors, so I don't want you to die in vain. The selection this time is to be able to contend against the geniuses of the Equipment Emperor Pavilion. If you are not careful, you will die a tragic death. I will give you one more chance. It is not too late to withdraw now. If you do not choose to withdraw at that time, then regardless of whether you live or die, even your forces will not be able to find trouble with us. Wu Shang looked at the crowd, and his voice was as calm as iron. He was expressionless. Everyone was silent. At this point, it was naturally impossible for anyone to choose to withdraw. Moreover, these people would never admit that they were inferior to others. Each and every one of them was a peerless genius who wanted to prove their Tao. Who would be inferior to others? Well, since no one wants to withdraw, then I announce that this selection begins now. Chapter 2255. It's finally starting. Haha, it's not easy for me to cultivate to a level comparable to Tao validation. Now is the time for me to make a name for myself. Who dares to compete with me? This time, I'll make sure he dies without a burial. It is said that there are only 3 places this time. We will select 10 people first. Then, we will fight against the Broken Dragon clan to select 3 people. Even if they're the geniuses of the Broken Dragon clan, they will die if they stand in front of me. Don't block the way. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. These people immediately whispered to each other, but gradually, their anger began to grow. These people were usually more unruly than the other, more arrogant and despotic than the other. It could be said that they had their eyes on the top of their heads. Naturally, there would be friction between them, and no one was willing to admit defeat. In addition, they might already have personal grudges on normal days. At this time, they were even more unwilling to give in to each other. All of you be quiet. Broken Dragon Wu Shang's words immediately made these people quiet. They could look down on the so-called famous people, but they had to submit to Broken Dragon Wu Shang because Broken Dragon Wu Shang's strength was far more tyrannical than them. You take turns to come up and collect your lot. Then, you will fight in pairs. We will only recruit 10 people in the end. These people took turns to draw their lot. Yi Shiwen originally wanted to stop Ling Fei from drawing the lot, but Ling Fei rushed to draw the lot before him. She smiled at him, obviously not taking his words to heart. Don't worry, these smelly fish and shrimps are far from hurting me. Ling Fei stood on her tiptoes, looking like an adult, patted Yi Shiwen's shoulder and comforted him. Yi Shiwen did not know whether to laugh or cry. He did not know what to say. Soon, it was Yi Shiwen's turn to go up, and his opponent in the first round was actually Xue Tianyu. This was a coincidence. Just admit defeat. You're no match for me. Although I don't know how you got in here. You haven't even reached the peak of Myth Realm. And yet you're here to challenge me? I think you must be tired of living. Xue Tianyu did not try to kill him right from the start. Make your move. How will you know if I am your opponent without fighting? Yi Shiwen said lightly. I gave you face, but you don't want it. Xue Tianyu made his move in an instant, and a big hand pressed down directly towards Yi Shiwen. The world turned dark, and the vault of heaven suddenly cracked open. Boom! With a loud bang, it suddenly shattered. Yi Shiwen didn't give in at all. He took a step forward and clenched his fist. It transformed into the divine fist of redemption. The power of redemption passed through his body and transformed into a huge lord of redemption. Bang! Xue Tianyu was sent flying by Yi Shiwen's punch when the palm and fist collided. His body was constantly retreating in midair. There was an incomparable horror in his eyes. He couldn't believe that he was actually sent flying by a punch. Hey, you're actually fine. Yi Shiwen chuckled. He seemed a bit surprised. But in Xue Tianyu's eyes, this was simply mocking him. He was instantly enraged, and a fierce light burst out from his eyes. Looks like you're courting death. Yi Shiwen sneered, shrugged his shoulders, and said, If you don't like it, then come and kill me. Go. Come on. Beat that idiot to death. Below the stage, Ling Fei's cheers resounded throughout the subspace without any scruples. Sure enough, Xue Tianyu's complexion became even more unsightly. This was a kind of provocation and a kind of contempt. How many years had it been since someone dared to despise him like this? He strode towards Yi Shiwen, and his eyes burst out with unimaginable light. The vault of heaven shattered wherever he passed. Go to hell! Xue Tianyu roared angrily, and his palm fell down. The entire universe lost its color, and it seemed as if there was only this palm in the world. Yi Shiwen didn't give in at all. He displayed the divine fist of redemption to the fullest extent and blasted towards Xue Tianyu. At the same time, his eye of redemption also burst out with the power of redemption and blasted towards Xue Tianyu. Boom! 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 An astonishing collision broke out between both sides. This battle attracted the attention of many people. Many people were watching the two of them. No matter who won or lost, they would inevitably have to fight each other in the end. Everything is illusory. Only I am eternal. Xue Tianyu roared, and the power that erupted from his palm soared into the sky. It was like the Milky Way flowing backwards, shaking the vault of heaven, and slammed towards Yi Shiwen fiercely. Divine fist of redemption. There's nothing in the world that can't be redeemed. Don't you admit defeat? Yi Shiwen blasted out a fist, and it was tit for tat with Xue Tianyu. He hadn't used his full strength yet. To be safe, he didn't use his strength of the middle immortal level. However, the peak of the early immortal level was enough to make him invincible. Boom! The two peerless martial arts collided directly, and it was simply a complete confrontation of martial arts rules. The fist momentum and palm shadows of both sides directly exploded, and even the Milky Way turned into dust. After just a few moves, Yi Shiwen had already figured out Xue Tianyu's strength. He didn't use too much strength. He only used his strength that was slightly stronger than Xue Tianyu's to completely suppress Xue Tianyu. Bang! The divine fist of redemption broke through Xue Tianyu's palm shadow and directly blasted into his chest. A big hole suddenly appeared in his chest. Ah! Xue Tianyu screamed, and he wanted to struggle. Two rays of divine light of redemption shot out from Yi Shiwen's eyes, and his head directly exploded. He condensed his divine soul, and just as he condensed his head, Yi Shiwen stepped down again, and Xue Tianyu's head exploded again on the spot. Yi Shiwen continued to stomp on his head until Xue Tianyu had no energy. The head was one of the most essential parts of the body. Every time it was condensed, it would consume a lot of life force. How could it withstand Yi Shiwen's torment? Everyone could see that Yi Shiwen had completely gained the upper hand. This person's strength is so strong. Shuetinho's strength is not weak, and he is also an outstanding person in the peak of the demigod level. However, he is actually beaten up so badly, and he has no strength to fight back at all. How strong is this person's strength? Could it be that he has already achieved Tao validation? Impossible. The aura on his body is definitely not the aura of a person who has achieved Tao validation. Otherwise, he could have directly passed the selection and wouldn't have needed to waste time with these demigods. Many people's divine senses were intertwined, and they were completely shocked by Yi Shiwen. Even the craziest person hadn't thought that this would be the result. Compared to Yi Shiwen, who had an unknown origin, Xue Tianyu was in existence who had already made a name for himself. Yi Shiwen easily won the battle, and he jumped off the stage. He glanced around and found that there were more than 50 people present. In other words, each person only needed to defeat 4 other people in order to enter the list of 10 people. Not long after he came down, it was Ling Fei's turn to fight. The next battle is between Lei Jingqi and Charming Yiksha. Charming Yiksha was Ling Fei's alias this time, and Yi Shiwen's alias was Deadly Scholar. Although it was only an alias, but fortunately, the Broken Dragon clan wasn't strict in this aspect. Although they wanted to recruit some geniuses, their main purpose was to recruit people to fight against the Tool Emperor Pavilion. Strength was the most fundamental of all, and other things didn't need to be considered. According to Ling Fei, she had chosen such a strange name to echo the name of Yi Shiwen's Deadly Scholar. Charming Yiksha is here to seek advice. Ling Fei flew onto the stage and cupped her hands in obeisance. She had an imposing appearance. "Ha ha ha, little girl, this isn't a place where you can play." This Lei Jingqi was also a thunder beast. He had transformed into a human form, but he still maintained the form of a beast. However, he was different from the thunder beast that Yi Shiwen had killed before. He had been cultivating in the Tool Emperor Heaven for a long time, and had absorbed innumerable treasured energies. So, his entire body was emitting a kind of treasure light. "Cut the crap." Ling Fei rolled her eyes and said. Her small face looked somewhat angry. It seemed that she was being looked down upon. "Then, don't blame me for being impolite." This thunder beast took a step and arrived in front of Ling Fei in an instant. He grabbed the void with his hand, and the thunder and lightning took the form of a long blade. Then he chopped down. He had already attacked before his voice had even faded. He clearly wanted to kill Ling Fei first. He didn't even hesitate to use a sneak attack. "Despicable!" Ling Fei shouted in a delicate voice. However, her hands didn't slow down in the slightest. She suddenly released the aura from her body, and an incomparably terrifying aura was released from the top of her head. It took the form of layers of clouds and spread out in all directions. A long sword suddenly appeared in her hand. It seemed as if the Milky Way was sliding down from the sky. It slashed out a gray sword light and went straight towards the saber light of the Thunder Beast. Bang! Both sides fiercely collided. Ling Fei had attacked later, but she had arrived first. She wasn't slow in the slightest. The long sword in her hand erupted with an astonishing sword light. Ling Fei's sword technique was also astonishingly tyrannical. Bang! The Thunder Beast's long thunder and lightning saber shattered on the spot after only one collision. It turned into fragments and flew away. What's that sword? Is it a divine tool? How can it be so powerful? Everyone looked at the sword in Ling Fei's hand in succession. It was dark gray in color. It was suffused with a kind of gloomy radiance under the sunlight. Everyone reacted in a flash. This sword was undoubtedly a divine tool, since it could chop off the Thunder Beast's long saber that contained the law of thunder and lightning. After all, what else could sever the law apart from a divine tool? Everyone held their breaths in succession. Where did this girl come from? She could casually take out a divine tool. One must know that not everyone could possess a divine tool, even if they were as strong as them. You look so ugly. Get lost! Ling Fei shouted in a delicate manner. She pointed her sword towards the Thunder Beast. Chapter 2256. The Thunder Beast staggered and fell down from the stage. Ugly? This is an extraordinary shame and humiliation. He was incomparably angry. The thunderbolts in the ninth heaven had been drawn down by him and had come crashing down with a loud rumble. They had weaved into a network of thunderbolts and had bombarded Ling Fei under his guidance. He didn't have any tender feelings for the fairer sex anymore. He had already flown into a rage out of humiliation and wanted to kill Ling Fei. An incomparably huge, ominous beast faintly appeared on his body. Its head reached the sky, and its feet stepped on the ground. It had overturned the stars, and its roar was the best in the universe. He had almost transformed into his original form. Many people were watching from afar. They felt as if their aura was being pulled away. They felt as if they were going to vomit. Whoosh! Ling Fei took a step forward. Her entire body seemed as if it was dancing. It was extremely graceful. Her pace was astonishing. She crossed the void and arrived in front of the Thunder Beast. The sword in her hand chopped through the thunder net and bombarded the Thunder Beast's body like a hot knife through butter. Bang! The Thunder Beast let out a muffled groan. Its huge body was overturned. A dreadful sword energy wreaked havoc in its body, and it was sent flying upside down. Roar! I won't let you have an easy time even if I die. An unimaginable ominous glint flashed in the Thunder Beast's eyes. He opened his mouth and gathered the strength of his entire body. Then a thunderbolt energy cannon rumbled out and swept across half of the world. Yi Shiwen's heart tightened. He was about to rush onto the stage. However, he suddenly relaxed. The audience also cried out in alarm. Many people could see that the counterattack of this Thunder Beast before its death wasn't simple. However, the result left them completely dumbfounded. The counterattack of this Thunder Beast before its death could seriously injure even a Dao-confirming expert if he wasn't careful. However, everyone clearly saw that the energy cannon had been intercepted 3 meters in front of Ling Fei. A mysterious power had blocked in front of her. Bang! The Thunder Beast ferociously hit the ground and spurted out a mouthful of blood. It wasn't clear whether it was because he was angry or because he had been seriously injured. This is bullying. There's a divine tool for offense and a divine tool for defense. What's the point of fighting? There's no point in fighting. F***CK. At this moment, even the most well-rested people could not help but blurt out. God artifacts were not unattainable for supreme prodigies like them, but those who could possess them were few and far between. Most of them were formed from God artifacts. Ling Fei had an offensive divine tool and a defensive divine tool. She was simply a bully. Where did this charming Yixia come from? Which big shot's disciple is she? An expert from the Duanlong clan asked from the throne. Even in the Duanlong clan, there was no time when they were so extravagant as to give 2 divine artifacts to a disciple to fool around. I don't know. I've never seen this martial art before, so I'm not too sure. But no matter what, the more experts there are, the better. As for the unknown origin, it won't be too late to investigate it when we want to rope her in. Everyone looked at Ling Fei with an obedient look in their eyes. It was no wonder that the Thunder Beast had vomited blood. How could he not vomit blood after encountering such an opponent? What's called a local tyrant? This is a local tyrant. He doesn't play with profound martial arts. He doesn't play with exquisite moves. He loves to bully you with divine tools. What can you do? You can also use divine tools if you have the ability. Yi Shiwen was slightly startled. Ling Fei arrived in front of him along with a burst of fragrant wind. She proudly raised her head, looked at Yi Shiwen, and said, "How is it? I'm awesome, right? You've underestimated me. It's your family's divine tools that are awesome. But don't flaunt your wealth. You've revealed 2 divine tools now. So, I'm afraid that some people will have designs on you." Yi Shiwen reminded, "What's there to be afraid of? I'll kill whoever dares to come. Moreover, aren't you here? Fight whoever doesn't have eyes for me." Ling Fei grinned and said. Yi Shiwen's face was full of black lines. In fact, the surrounding experts who had been paying attention to this side were also embarrassed at this time. This grin, it wasn't someone to be trifled with. Her strength wasn't weak. Moreover, she had divine tools in her hands, let alone the fact that she was comparable to a Tao confirming expert. Even a genuine god would be beaten to a pulp by her. Ling Fei was like this. She didn't care at all. You can bite me if you don't accept it. Otherwise, I'll make Yi Shiwen bite you. Yi Shiwen felt that divine senses had swept over both of them. His expression turned cold. He wouldn't mind killing someone to establish his prestige if some blind guy came knocking on his door. After Ling Fei, there were more than a dozen fierce battles. Each of them was exciting. These were the best among the demigods. Many of them had battle prowess comparable to a Tao confirming expert. They were extraordinary, and ordinary people couldn't deal with them. All kinds of laws emerged. Magical martial arts were displayed one after another. Yi Shiwen also felt that it was an eye-opener. Many of the battles could be said to be several times more intense than the battles of Tao confirming experts. If it wasn't for the reinforcement of the many tactical formations, it would have been destroyed. An ordinary subspace couldn't withstand the attacks of a Tao confirming expert. Next, 8 Paths Sec Zhang Yaoyang, Deadly Scholar. Finally, it was Yi Shiwen's turn again. He took a big stride and flew directly to the arena. His opponent was already waiting for him. I'm afraid this Deadly Scholar won't have much luck. I've seen 8 Paths Sec Zhang Yaoyang in the past. He fought against a god with his bare hands. Now, I don't know how tyrannical he has become. It's completely unimaginable. That might not be the case. Zhang Yaoyang might be powerful, but this Deadly Scholar isn't that easy to deal with either. Xue Tianyu was considered pretty good previously, but in the end, he was beaten like a stray dog. Regardless, these two aren't ordinary people. The laws of the demigods have completely manifested on their bodies. They've triggered a storm of laws. In any case, it'd be best if both of them get seriously injured. There are only 10 slots in total. It's pitifully small. Everyone was discussing spiritedly under the arena. Many people felt that it would be a pity if they didn't finish the book. This 8 Paths Sec Zhang Yaoyang was already famous and extraordinary. Deadly Scholar, what's your relationship with that charming Yiksha? She actually has 2 divine tools. This isn't something she should have. How about this? I won't kill you today if you can convince her to give me one of her divine tools. How about it? Zhang Yaoyang took a step forward and glanced at Ling Fei. There was a hint of greed in his eyes. It was obvious that he coveted the divine tools in Ling Fei's hands. He was extremely jealous in his heart. Even a genius like him didn't have a divine tool. Why did this little girl have one? Moreover, she had 2 divine tools. It was like pouring salt on his wound. Idiot! Yi Shiwen spat out these 2 words coldly. He looked at 8 Paths Sec Zhang Yaoyang with contempt. Damn it! How dare you look down on me? Zhang Yaoyang was furious. Yi Shiwen's gaze had deeply pierced his self-esteem. His background couldn't be compared to these top-notch geniuses. Hence, he had always felt inferior. Now that he was being looked down upon by Yi Shiwen, it was tantamount to him exploding all of a sudden. Flaunt your prowess. He took a step forward. Endless energy surged out from under his feet. It rolled out in all directions. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and blasted it towards Yi Shiwen. The entire firmament of the universe slightly swayed along with his fist intention. It seemed as if it wanted to echo his fist intention. He had blasted out a Tao diagram with one punch. His strength couldn't be underestimated. Many people who saw this fist path Tao diagram felt nauseous on the spot. They were dignified peak demigods, and yet they had such a feeling. From this, one could imagine just how tyrannical this Tao diagram was. Even the masters of the Duanlong family, who sat high above on their thrones, all looked over. This Tao diagram was indeed extraordinary. Die! The fist pressure crushed down and fell on Yi Shiwen's body. It seemed as if it had blasted into a sea. It formed unimaginable waves. The divinities on Yi Shiwen's body automatically bounced back. Zhang Yaoyang's fist hadn't even hit Yi Shiwen's body when it had already sunk into the endless sea of divinities. What? Zhang Yaoyang was a little dumbfounded. He had used his full strength to severely injure a god. What was going on with this person in front of him? He couldn't even move forward. Only then did Yi Shiwen move slowly. He raised his arm and slapped out. Slap! An incomparably crisp sound of a slap resounded through the entire space. But what followed was Zhang Yaoyang's entire head that was about to split open. He was held back by Yi Shiwen's divinities and couldn't move freely. He could only watch as this slap fell on his face. His eyes were incomparably resentful. This was a slap in the face. It was more humiliating than anything else. This was a humiliation he had never felt before. He wanted revenge. His cultivation was raised to the peak. His murderous aura shook the entire world. Although he wasn't a god, he was already a demigod. When a demigod was angry, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Slap! Another big slap completely interrupted his momentum. He immediately became listless. The other half of his face was almost split open. Slap! 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 Yi Shiwen didn't give him a chance to explode at all. He directly slapped him over 100 times until he was dizzy. How could this be? How could this be? Many people in the audience were silent. They didn't dare to make a sound. This was not as simple as defeating Zhang Yaoyang. He was slapped more than 100 times in public. It was simply a humiliation. Yes, this was indeed a humiliation. Even if Xue Tianyu was not Yi Shiwen's opponent before, he had never suffered such an ugly humiliation. After a long time, Yi Shiwen said, "Next time, if I see you having any ideas about her, I will pinch you to death." Everyone understood why Zhang Yaoyang would suffer such humiliation. Yi Shiwen was killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Chapter 2257. Everyone could see that Yi Shiwen was punishing the chicken to warn the monkeys. He was warning all the guys who had designs on Ling Fei's divine tool that they shouldn't mess around. Everyone looked at Zhang Yaoyang's incomparably miserable appearance and couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines. Being defeated wasn't a big deal, but being humiliated in such a humiliating manner was the truly terrifying part. If they were to be slapped hundreds of times in the face like Zhang Yaoyang, how would they have the face to see others in the future? Ling Fei was the only one present. Her face was completely red, and she was shouting excitedly. She looked as if she was watching a good show. This Yi Shiwen is so powerful. I didn't expect him to be a dark horse. Someone on the throne said. Although there were 10 quotas this time, and each quota represented countless rewards, it still depended on who was stronger in the end. Therefore, the competition between the big shots behind the scenes wasn't that serious. The talents selected this time had to fight with the Royal Tool Pavilion. If they couldn't defeat the Royal Tool Pavilion, then the consequences would be unimaginable. The Broken Dragonstone would also become the Royal Tool Pavilion's possession. It was impossible for the Duanlong clan to not feel pressured in the face of such a colossus. If the Royal Tool Pavilion didn't want to suffer heavy casualties, they would have already attacked. The Duanlong clan also didn't want to have a conflict with the Royal Tool Pavilion. Although the Duanlong clan was prosperous, there was still a huge gap between them and the Royal Tool Pavilion. The most important thing is if we can't find someone who can compete with Feng Qingji. Many people turned their attention towards Yi Shiwen. They were pondering in their hearts whether they should investigate this deadly scholar's background and then rope him into their faction. The Duanlong clan naturally had the surname Duanlong. However, there were also many foreign experts. They were also a very important supplement. For these people who had already proved their Dao, they naturally knew how big the gap was between those who had proved their Dao and those who hadn't. Those who hadn't proved their Dao were just a group of ants in their eyes. There was no exception even if the ants were stronger. And among these people, Yi Shiwen seemed to be the most promising existence to prove his Dao. These people are really lucky this time. In order to fight against Feng Qingji, they have to be at the Dao confirming realm. However, our Duanlong clan doesn't have a single Dao confirming realm disciple at this age. That's why we have no choice but to rope in some people from the outside, give them opportunities, give them resources, and let them have the chance to step into the Dao confirming realm and be of use to us. Yeah, we didn't have such a good opportunity back then. Yi Shiwen's divine sense was lurking, and he had been paying attention to this side. At present, his eyes lit up. These deities might not have thought that someone would dare to be so audacious to this extent. Yi Shiwen had killed the Devil Lord of the Abyss, and had broken the Devil barrier in his heart. In a strict sense, he had already cleared all the obstacles to the Tao confirmation. The only thing he lacked was the accumulation of power. Unless he had a fortuitous encounter, it would take him hundreds of years to accumulate power. Now that he was in the Weapon Emperor Heaven, it was impossible for him to return to the deification abyss. This was a good opportunity. Originally, he just came to watch, and more to accompany Ling Fei's nonsense. Now, Yi Shiwen had to win. But it's not so easy to prove the Tao, especially since there's not much time left for them. Someone snorted. The battle was still going on fiercely. Soon, there were only 10 people left. Yi Shiwen also swept all the way, and there was no opponent at all. Since he had made up his mind to take advantage of the Duanlong clan support, Yi Shiwen didn't mind performing better. These people were called Heaven's Pride, but they were only comparable to the initial stage of the immortal realm. Yi Shiwen didn't even fall into a disadvantageous position even if he fought against the intermediate stage of the immortal realm. His combat power was a whole realm higher than them, so the situation was naturally completely different. Yi Shiwen swept all the way, and there was no one who could withstand 10 moves from Yi Shiwen. Therefore, Yi Shiwen quickly turned from a dark horse to a popular candidate in this selection. If it wasn't for the fact that he had to fight with the experts selected from the internal selection of the Duanlong clan, perhaps the popularity would be completely different. Congratulations on passing the selection, but I hope that you understand that this is just the beginning and not the real end. After the battle between the internal experts of the Duanlong clan, we will choose 3 people from the 20 people to represent the Duanlong clan in the final battle against the Weapon Emperor Pavilion. I hope that you all will do your best, and don't take it lightly. However, even if you can't become one of the 3 people, in order to thank everyone for coming to help, the Duanlong clan will not be stingy. Duanlong Wushang said directly, "The battle will start tomorrow. I will arrange for everyone to go and rest first. Yi Shiwen I also passed. Who told you to look down on me?" Ling Fei giggled as she arrived in front of Yi Shiwen. She then said in a proud manner, "No one could block her attack by relying on her all-conquering treasured sword. So, no one could stand in front of her divine tool and suffer a crushing defeat." Although some people secretly criticized Ling Fei for only relying on the power of the divine tool to sweep all the way, Ling Fei didn't care at all. He had a "bite me if you don't accept it" look on his face, which made those people completely speechless. Moreover, even if they weren't afraid of Ling Fei, they had to be afraid of Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's strength was obviously stronger than them by more than an entire realm. He had almost swept away everyone. No one wanted to offend him. They had also seen how Zhang Yaoyang had been humiliated in public. If the same thing happened to them, they would really have no face to see anyone. "You continue to show off," Yi Shiwen said rather helplessly. Just when everyone was preparing to leave and go to the place that the Duanlong clan had prepared for them to stay, several figures suddenly flew out from the sky. Each of them had an unimaginably terrifying aura. Any one of them could be said to be a peerless hero with earth-shattering strength. Yi Shiwen wrinkled his brows. These people immediately flew down from the sky. "The outstanding disciples of the Duanlong clan have come." There was a commotion in the crowd. In this area, there was no doubt that the Duanlong clan was the real local tyrant. They could decide the life and death of everyone, and they were nothing in front of the disciples of the Duanlong clan. However, what did these disciples of the Duanlong clan want to do by coming here at this time? "I heard that you have already finished the competition. In my opinion, there is no need to look for you. Could it be that you people are stronger than the experts of our Duanlong clan? Who among you is the life-snatching scholar? I heard that he is quite strong. Let me have a taste of his strength." At this time, a figure flew out from among the few figures. He was approximately 30 years old. His entire body was bursting with the aura of a treasure. He was an incomparably tyrannical treasure demon. Everyone clenched their fists. Their pride was trampled under the foot of this guy without hesitation. Although these experts of the Duanlong clan were asking for a beating, their strength was more tyrannical than the previous one. They could not do anything about it. This is Duanlong Wuchuan, one of the rising heavens pride experts of the Duanlong clan. In less than a few thousand years, he is already cultivated to the peak of the demigod realm. Among the experts of this generation, he is most likely to become a Dao-confirming expert. Someone immediately recognized the origin of this person. There was another commotion in the crowd. Although many people had not seen Duanlong Wuchuan before, they had heard of his name. Although everyone was indignant, their eyes uniformly looked at Yi Shiwen. Although they were in a competitive relationship with Yi Shiwen before, they were now comrades in the same trench. Seeing that the situation had changed, even the Dao-confirming experts of the Duanlong clan who were sitting on the high and mighty thrones also stayed back. It seemed that they wanted to see how good this dark horse Yi Shiwen was. I didn't expect Duanlong Wuchuan to be the first to attack. This kid has always been reckless. This life-stealing scholar is troublesome. This is not a big trouble. If even Duanlong Wuchuan can't deal with this life-stealing scholar, there is no value in cultivating him. That's true. I hope he can hold on for a few more rounds. Although they were more optimistic about Yi Shiwen, these experts of the Duanlong clan had incomparable confidence in the experts cultivated by their own clan. You are the life-stealing scholar. Interesting. Take a punch from me first, Duanlong Wuchuan said and attacked without the slightest scruple. He did not even put these people in his eyes. In his opinion, this selection was just a waste of time. If even the people of the Duanlong clan were not a match for him, what was the use of relying on a few outsiders? Boom! This punch directly triggered the crazy rotation of the world's vitality, forming a terrible cyclone, and blasted towards Yi Shiwen from the sky. In the void, a torrent appeared, and a huge crack was directly torn. This crack revealed a chaotic aura, and everywhere was full of killing intent. It blasted towards Yi Shiwen's direction. The sky shattered, and the sun and moon lost their light. This terrifying turbulence wrapped everyone in it, so everyone in the entire space could feel this amazing punch. His profound martial power had almost reached a shocking level. Even those Heaven's Pride experts from the outside were shocked at this moment. This Duanlong Wuchuan was too strong. They all clenched their fists. Was the gap between them really that big? They were all at the peak of the demigod realm, comparable to the Dao validation, but their martial power was too far apart. The foundation of the Duanlong clan was too terrifying, and the experts cultivated by them were also far beyond the ordinary. In particular, this Duanlong Wuchuan was not the most tyrannical existence in the Duanlong clan. His foundation was really unimaginably deep. Everyone circulated their martial power, hoping not to be accidentally injured. Everyone retreated, not daring to take it head-on. One could imagine how terrifying the power of this move was. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.